Chapter 781. Seeing the second-order Devil King realm disciple rushing over, Yihao immediately brought the rest of the disciples to watch. 4 three-eyed giant wolves pounced on the disciple. 4 three-eyed giant wolves. 3 of them were 8th-order Devil Kings, and one of them was at the peak of the Devil King realm. It could be said that their strength had increased tremendously. Yihao knew that it wouldn't be easy for this second-order Devil Emperor realm disciple to kill the 4 three-eyed giant wolves. But as long as he was careful, he could do it. In the blink of an eye, the 4 three-eyed giant wolves surrounded the disciple. The 4 three-eyed giant wolves cooperated with each other and attacked the disciple from all directions. The disciple panicked when he was suddenly attacked by 4 three-eyed giant wolves. The rest of the disciples broke out in cold sweat for the disciple. Under the siege of 4 three-eyed giant wolves, the slightest carelessness could put his life in danger. Fortunately, the disciple's reaction was still agile, even though he panicked. Rumbling sword. The disciple shouted and executed his martial skill. It's actually the Wang family's high-grade yellow-ranked martial skill, rumbling sword. I wonder what realm he has cultivated it to. Seeing the disciple's sword skill, many disciples recognized it. The long sword in the disciple's hand flashed with cold light, and at the same time, rumbling sounds could be heard in the air. Hearing the rumbling sounds, the 4 three-eyed giant wolves were obviously uncomfortable. They retreated one by one and howled even louder. His talent is really good. He actually cultivated the rumbling sword skill to the point of perfection. Everyone was shocked when they saw the disciple forcing the 4 three-eyed giant wolves back half a step. When the disciple saw the 4 three-eyed giant wolves, a smug smile appeared on his face. Be careful! Yihao suddenly let out a roar. Because when the disciple was feeling smug, the peak Devil King realm three-eyed giant wolf pounced on the disciple's back. Hearing Yihao's warning, the disciple's heart skipped a beat and a bad premonition arose. Rumbling sword skill. The disciple executed the rumbling sword skill again and attacked his back. The disciple's sword directly pierced through the three-eyed wolf's huge claw. The three-eyed wolf let out a painful cry. Although the three-eyed giant wolf was injured, the disciple's back was drenched in cold sweat. If not for Yihao's warning, or if he had reacted a little slower, the giant wolf's claws would have torn his neck apart. At this moment, this disciple did not dare to be complacent in the slightest, nor did he dare to be careless. He immediately followed up his victory and attacked the injured wolf. As for the injured, three-eyed giant wolf, his eyes were filled with unwillingness because he was so close to killing his disciple. However, due to its injuries, its fighting prowess had been greatly reduced. Before the disciples, it was unable to exert its full strength. Thus, the three-eyed giant wolf, who was at the pinnacle of the Demon Lord realm, was completely crushed by the disciple. In the blink of an eye, it was already riddled with wounds and fell to the ground unwillingly. Yihao immediately went up and killed the three-eyed giant wolf, turning it into his own experience. Although there weren't many of them, in front of Yihao, no matter how small fly was, it was still meat. They couldn't let it go to waste. On the other hand, the disciples' biggest problem was solved. The remaining 3 rank 8 Demon Lord three-eyed giant wolves were even easier to deal with. In less than 3 minutes, the 3 three-eyed giant wolves were all lying on the ground. Yihao went up and ended their lives. How do you feel about your performance? Yihao looked at his disciple and asked. I'm not satisfied. The disciple immediately said when he recalled that he was almost killed by the giant wolves. Someone reminded you today. If you had faced the 4 three-eyed giant wolves alone today, I think you know what would have happened to you. Yihao said coldly. The disciple lowered his head with a look of remorse. And all of you, remember this. No matter what, you must go all out against the enemy. Don't be careless. Yihao's gaze swept across the rest of the disciples. Yes, everyone nodded quickly. After all, they had seen the battle just now. It was really thrilling. If Yihao's reminder had been too late, or if the disciple had reacted by himself, the one who would have died now would probably have been the disciple. Originally, I wanted to reward you with this high-grade, profound class sword technique. However, I'm not satisfied with your performance. I hope you can continue to work hard. Yi Hao took out a martial technique and said, one had to know that this martial technique was chosen from the 100,000 martial techniques that the system had rewarded him when he established the academy. Yi Hao took time out to challenge 20 martial techniques that were most suitable for 20 people from the martial technique pavilion. However, Yi Hao did not intend to give it to them so early. High-grade profound class martial technique. Hearing Yi Hao's words, all the disciples' eyes lit up as they looked at the martial technique in Yi Hao's hand. One had to know that among the 20 people present, only a few of them had cultivated a profound rank cultivation technique, but it was only a low-level profound rank cultivation technique. As for high profound rank martial skills, even in the rain domain, they were rarely seen. Thus, to them, the allure of this martial skill was absolutely enormous. As for the disciple who did not have a second-order demon king, he was filled with regret at this moment. This was a high-grade profound class martial technique. It was much more powerful than his rumbling sword art. It was estimated that only a handful of disciples in the Tianyuan Academy could cultivate this high-grade profound class martial technique. If they could learn this martial technique, their combat strength would be greatly improved. 3 months later, their chances of winning the challenge would also increase. However, because of his mistake in the battle, he missed out on this opportunity. There is a third-order Demon Emperor demonic beast ahead. As long as you defeat it, this martial technique will belong to you. Yi Hao heard the hidden demon venerable's voice in his mind and said to the disciple, who was full of regret. Really? Hearing Yi Hao's words, the disciple's regret disappeared immediately. He looked at Yi Hao excitedly. Although he was only a second-order demon emperor, he believed that as long as he gave it his all, it would not be a problem to kill a third-order demon emperor demonic beast. The demonic beast is coming. It's up to you now. Yi Hao heard the sound from afar and said to the disciple. Then, Yi Hao led everyone away from the disciple's side. Not long after, they saw a giant python that was more than 10 meters long. It smelled blood and approached the disciple. A third-order demon emperor, crimson blood python. Seeing the demonic beast, the disciple did not dare to be careless. It was not only because of the martial technique. It was because the crimson blood python was definitely one of the top demonic beasts of the same level. Chapter 782. Without my orders, no one is allowed to attack. Yi Hao ordered sternly when he heard the disciples' words. What he wanted was to use demonic beasts and dangers to train his disciples. Using the third-order Devil Emperor Scarlet Blood Python to temper Wang Kai was the most suitable choice. How could he allow his disciples to interfere? Yes, everyone was wondering whether Wang Kai could defeat the Red Blood Python. But after hearing Yi Hao's order, they had to give up the idea of helping Wang Kai. The Red Blood Python was fighting with Wang Kai at this moment. As soon as the Crimson Blood Python appeared, it wanted to use its advantage in speed to bind Wang Kai. But Wang Kai was focused on dealing with the Red Blood Python. He immediately dodged the Red Blood Python's attack. The Red Blood Python's attack missed, and its body swept through 4 or 5 trees. The trees were smashed into pieces by the Red Blood Python's attack. It could be seen how powerful the Red Blood Python was. If Wang Kai was hit by the Red Blood Python, he would suffer. Seeing that its attack missed, the Red Blood Python became even more violent, and its tail whipped toward Wang Kai fiercely. Rumbling sword technique. Seeing the Red Blood Python's tail whipping toward Wang Kai quickly dodged. At the same time, he seized the opportunity to attack the Red Blood Python with a rumbling sword technique. Beautiful. Seeing that Wang Kai had dodged and attacked the Red Blood Python in one go, the disciples praised him excitedly. When Yi Hao saw this scene, he nodded in satisfaction. Wang Kai's long sword cut the Red Blood Python's huge tail. Apparently, the Red Blood Python didn't expect that Wang Kai would dodge its attack again and attack it. Therefore, the Red Blood Python didn't have time to dodge, and a half-meter-long wound appeared on its tail. The Red Blood Python was in pain, and it screamed in anger. Wang Kai didn't dare to be careless and dodged again. As expected, the red blood python was in pain, and it went berserk. It opened its mouth and wanted to swallow Wang Kai. But Wang Kai had already dodged it. When the red blood python's attack missed, Wang Kai's long sword stabbed the red blood python's body again. The crimson blood python didn't expect that its attack would miss again and that it would be injured by Wang Kai again. It almost lost its mind. This Wang Kai is too freakish. When everyone saw Wang Kai's attack method, they were all extremely shocked. That was because the majority of them were from the various large clans. Normally, the various large clans would also hold competitions. Although Wang Kai's performance was not bad, it was definitely not that heaven-defying. He was completely suppressing the crimson blood python. Everyone could see that the crimson python had already entered a frenzied state. It no longer cared about its injuries and only wanted to kill Wang Kai. Furthermore, the crimson blood python's attacks were relentless. However, Wang Kai was able to nimbly dodge the crimson blood python's attacks almost every time. Moreover, he was able to inflict large and small injuries on the crimson blood python's body. The blood of the crimson blood python had seeped into the ground. Did you see that? Wang Kai's speed is actually not faster than the crimson blood python. What? Hearing this, everyone's gaze fell on Wang Kai and the crimson blood python. How did Wang Kai's battle experience become so strong? You have to know that I defeated him when he fought with me previously. If he really has such strong battle experience, the one who will lose will definitely be me. A third-order Devil Emperor disciple said in shock. Yi Hao heard the shock of the disciples, but he only smiled and did not say anything. Of course, he knew why Wang Kai's battle experience had become so powerful. Naturally, it was related to the change in Wang Kai's talent. One had to know that the strength of a person's talent was also related to their strength. In the past, Wang Kai's talent was only low grade, but now it was high grade. In the past, Wang Kai's strength would definitely be average among cultivators of the same level and would not be too outstanding. But now, Wang Kai's high-grade talent could absolutely crush cultivators of the same level. He could even fight cultivators of a higher level. With a strong talent, going through battles would definitely increase one's battle experience by a large margin. Wang Kai's current battle experience was definitely far superior to when he fought against the three-eyed wolf. Therefore, in order to let these disciples display their talents, they had to go through battles and comprehend battle experience. This was also the reason why Yi Hao led the disciples through the magic beast forest. At this moment, Wang Kai's battle was becoming more and more skillful. On the other hand, the scarlet blood python was getting weaker and weaker, and its attacks were not as strong as before. Everyone could see that the scarlet blood python had no chance to make a comeback. However, the disciples felt that it was a little unrealistic. After all, they were still worried about whether Wang Kai could defeat the scarlet blood python or not. But the reality was that Wang Kai had crushed the scarlet blood python all the way. When Yi Hao saw that it was about time, he stepped forward and killed the scarlet blood python with a sword. He received some of experience, but it did not drop anything. "Lord, I have completed the mission," Wang Kai said excitedly with a smile on his face. Even now, Wang Kai felt that killing the scarlet blood python was a little unrealistic, because when he killed the scarlet blood python, except for the slight panic at the beginning, it was simply too easy. Moreover, he did not know why, but when he was fighting the scarlet blood python, he could always predict the scarlet blood python's next attack. It had to be known that this situation had never happened before, and when he was fighting the three-eyed giant wolf, he had this feeling. Otherwise, even if Yi Hao had warned him, he wouldn't have been able to react so quickly and deal with the sneak attack of the peak Heavenly Demon King, three-eyed giant wolf. Could it be related to my breakthrough in talent? Wang Kai thought for a moment and suddenly thought of a possibility, because this was the only possibility that could cause such a huge change in him. He felt that his current battle experience was definitely several times stronger than before. "Wang Kai, you are really good. You have really exceeded my expectations. When did your battle strength become so strong? I really did not expect that your battle experience would be so abundant. Wang Kai, you have hidden it too deeply." Many disciples looked at Wang Kai and said one after another. Wang Kai scratched his head embarrassedly because he knew that he was definitely not so strong before. Actually, my battle strength was not so strong before, Wang Kai said embarrassedly. That's enough, Wang Kai. Stop pretending. We saw your battle just now. That's right. The scarlet blood python is a peak existence among demonic beasts of the same level. Your cultivation level is lower than it, but you were able to crush it. That's right. Even if I were the scarlet blood python, I would not be able to fight it as easily as you. Chapter 783. What I said is true. I feel that the reason why my combat experience is so strong is because of the aptitude pill that the Lord gave us. It has greatly improved my comprehension in combat. Wang Kai immediately explained when he saw that everyone had misunderstood. Is what you said true? Doesn't that mean that our combat experience will also be greatly improved? Are you kidding us? If that's the case, as long as my combat experience increases, my combat strength will also be greatly improved. Everyone looked at Wang Kai with a sincere expression on their faces as they spoke excitedly. Combat experience might not be of much use in front of experts who were much stronger than them. However, in front of experts who were at the same level as them, or experts who were not much stronger than them, combat experience was absolutely crucial. Take Wang Kai, for example. If he relied on his previous combat experience, it would be very difficult for him to defeat the Crimson Blood Python. He would definitely be injured. However, with powerful combat experience, killing the Crimson Blood Python was simply a piece of cake. You have to know that with your talent, you are definitely favored by the heavens. Naturally, you can't be compared to the past, Yi Hao said when he saw that everyone was excited. Next, I will assign you a mission to train your combat experience. Yi Hao looked at everyone and said, you have to remember that your life and death are in your hands. No one will save you. Yes, everyone became nervous when they heard Yi Hao's words. Because Yi Hao meant to kill them, the following battle would depend on their own abilities. Even if their lives were in danger, Yi Hao would not save them. They did not know if Yi Hao would really not save them when their lives were in danger. However, they did not dare to take the risk. After all, if Yi Hao really did not save them, they would die. If they died, no matter how good their talent was, it would be useless. There's a Class 5 Demon Emperor demonic beast in front. You go. Yi Hao pointed at a Class 4 Demon Emperor disciple. Yes. Hearing Yi Hao's order, the disciple immediately rushed forward. There's a Class 7 Demon Emperor demonic beast in the northeast. You go. There's a Class 7 Demon Emperor demonic beast in the south. You go. There's a Class 5 Demon Emperor demonic beast in front. You go. In one day, everyone was rushing madly. Yi Hao kept asking the Demon Venerable to secretly search for demonic beasts and then issue missions to the Z disciples. At the end of the day, almost every disciple had fought at least one magical beast. Some had even fought several magical beasts. Of course, many of them were not so lucky. They were attacked by the demonic beasts and suffered injuries of various sizes. But without exception, every disciple's combat talent had greatly improved. It was already night time, and Yi Hao had roasted some meat for the disciples, allowing them to eat their fill, and each and every one of them ate heartily. All of you take a rest. Yi Hao instructed everyone. Yes, after a day of hard work, all the disciples were extremely sleepy. When they heard Yi Hao's command, they all started to fall asleep. Seeing the disciples fall into a deep sleep, Yi Hao revealed a smile at the corner of his mouth. One had to know that the night was a paradise for magical beasts. The combat strength of magical beasts was also extremely terrifying. On the other hand, when humans fought at night, they would be more or less restricted. This was the best opportunity to train his disciples. Yi Hao would not let it go to waste. A demon venerable appeared next to Yi Hao. Yi Hao then ordered, go and chase away 20 demonic beasts of the Demon Emperor level. Their levels don't have to be too high. Yes. After receiving Yi Hao's order, the demon venerable looked at the disciples with pity and then immediately went to gather the other demon venerables to chase away the demonic beasts. Disciples, get ready for tonight's feast. Yi Hao took out a demonic beast's corpse, tore it into pieces, and distributed them around the disciples. Instantly, the smell of blood filled the air. Yi Hao believed that the smell of blood would drive the demonic beast crazy. Then, Yi Hao left the disciples and hid in a big tree. Roar! Not long after, the roar of the demonic beasts could be heard from afar. Seeing that the demon venerables were able to catch the demonic beasts so quickly, Yi Hao nodded with satisfaction. Looks like these demon venerables are not bad. What's that sound? Brothers, get up. Among the 20 disciples, there were some who were sharp enough to notice the roar of the demonic beasts and quickly called out to them. Where's the master? When they heard the roar, they quickly got up. But after searching for a long time, they still could not find Yi Hao. There's no need to search anymore. This must be the master's test for us. Brothers, get ready for battle. One of them said with a bitter smile. It can't be. It's the middle of the night. The disciples immediately cried out in pain. But all of them had already taken out their weapons and were ready to fight. Roar! At this time, a demonic beast appeared in front of them. It's a rank 3 demon emperor. Give it to me. When Wang Kai saw the demonic beast's cultivation, he did not wait for them to react and immediately rushed over. Sword style of roaring. Wang Kai immediately used his sword style to suppress the demonic beast in front of him. Demonic beasts were not to be trifled with. Because it was late at night, the demonic beast's ferocity was completely aroused, and the smell of blood in the air had driven the demonic beasts into a frenzy. When the demonic beast saw Wang Kai rushing over, it was as if it had seen a delicious meal. It opened its bloody mouth and pounced on Wang Kai. Roar! Roar! Before they could watch Wang Kai's battle, 3 more demonic beasts appeared. Leave this demonic beast to us. Looking at the demonic beast that appeared, another 3 disciples rushed out and attacked the demonic beasts. Brothers, don't just stand there. Let's fight. Suddenly, one of the disciples pointed behind him with a bitter smile. Dozens of demonic beasts had appeared out of nowhere. Kill! The disciples shouted in unison and immediately rushed at the demonic beasts. In the blink of an eye, the 20 disciples were each fighting against a demonic beast. Yi Hao looked at the sky and saw the dark clouds covering the moon as he mumbled, "Tonight is destined to be a sleepless night." Die! Wang Kai roared. Seizing the opportunity, he stabbed the long sword in his hand into the demonic beast's eye. The demonic beast cried out in pain and then fell to the ground dead. My combat experience seems to have increased. I can even fight against a rank 4 demon emperor demonic beast. Wang Kai thought to himself excitedly. This was because he realized that he could kill rank 3 demon emperor demonic beasts much faster and easier than before. Well done, Wang Kai. Seeing that Wang Kai had killed the demonic beast, they all congratulated him. Chapter 784. Wang Kai, recover your strength first. The smell of blood will definitely attract more demonic beasts. Li Xiaotian said to Wang Kai. Okay. Hearing Li Xiaotian's words, Wang Kai dug out the demonic crystals of the demonic beasts and retreated to a safe place to recover his strength. As Wang Kai's battle ended, the rest of the disciples also killed the demonic beasts in front of them. Roar! 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 This group of demonic beasts is really fast. Li Xiaotian killed the Class 7 Demon Emperor demonic beast in front of him with a sword. Hearing the cries coming from all around, his fighting spirit was boiling. Brothers, let's see who can kill the most demonic beast today. Suddenly, a disciple said with a smile. Okay. Everyone agreed and waited for the arrival of the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts were unusually fast. They roared ferociously and pounced on the disciples with the smell of blood. The disciples were not to be trifled with. When they saw the demonic beasts coming, they immediately rushed up. Why don't we add a bet? Whoever kills the least demonic beasts will contribute the roasted meat that the Lord roasts tomorrow. Li Xiaotian said with a smile as he repelled the demonic beasts in front of him. You are too ruthless. It seems that I have to go all out for the roasted meat tomorrow. A disciple who is almost as strong as Li Xiaotian replied with a smile. Senior brother, Although you are stronger than me, I will not admit defeat easily, Wang Kai said with a smile. Wang Kai, you have to work hard. Li Xiaotian laughed again. At the same time, the long sword in his hand had pierced another demonic beast. The demonic beasts attracted this time were of different strengths, ranging from the Demon King realm to the Demon Emperor realm. They could even see Demon General level demonic beasts. Therefore, it was much easier for the disciples to kill them. However, the number of demonic beasts was also increasing. In the blink of an eye, it had increased to 70 or 80 demonic beasts. In other words, each disciple had to fight several demonic beasts at the same time. Brothers, the demonic beasts are increasing. You have to be fast. Looking at the increasing number of demonic beasts, a disciple shouted loudly, My lord, the number of demonic beasts is increasing. Should we stop some of them? A demon sovereign appeared in front of Yi Hao and asked respectfully. Yi Hao waved his hand and said, There's no need for that. You guys just need to stop the high-level Demon Emperor demonic beasts. What he wanted was the tempering of life and death. Only then would he be able to better stimulate the potential of the disciples. At the same time, it would allow the disciples to grow better. Naturally, the greater the number of demonic beasts, the greater the pressure on the disciples. Otherwise, even though the disciples were constantly killing magical beasts, they wouldn't feel the slightest bit of pressure, which wouldn't achieve the effect of tempering the disciples. Yi Hao watched the disciples kill the demonic beasts as if their lives depended on it. At the beginning, they were killing the demonic beasts on their own. In the end, they began to work together tacitly. However, the number of magical beasts didn't seem to be decreasing. At the beginning, there were still 70 to 80 of them, but now there were more than 100 of them. And this was when the disciples had already killed quite a number of demonic beasts. Fortunately, the bodies of the demonic beasts were relatively large. Thus, they were unable to attack the disciples all at once. Each time, there would be at most 3 to 4 demonic beasts attacking each disciple. However, there were too many magical beasts. As long as the disciples killed a magical beast, another magical beast would immediately replace it. It can't be. Why does it seem like we can't kill these magical beasts? A disciple who had killed 5 magical beasts in a row couldn't help but wail when he saw the horde of beasts in front of him. If I were you, I would think about how to kill the magical beasts quickly. It's useless to complain. That's right. Fortunately, there are no powerful magical beasts appearing. Otherwise, we would be finished. The disciples didn't forget to comment as they killed the magical beasts one by one. It could be seen that the disciples were no longer as calm as they were in the beginning. At this moment, all of them were panting heavily. Brothers, we can't stay here like this. We have to think of a way to break out. Otherwise, we will be devoured by these beasts. Seeing that more and more magical beasts were gathering around them, Li Xiaotian shouted, I think so too. We can't stay here like this. Then which direction should we break out in? I think we should break out in the east. The density of the magical beasts in the east is lower. All right, you guys cooperate with me. Tear an opening and retreat together. The disciples immediately reached a consensus. Under the leadership of Li Xiaotian, the disciples immediately attacked the magical beasts in the east. In the blink of an eye, several magical beasts were killed. The horde of magical beasts was empty. Break out, Li Xiaotian shouted as he repelled a magical beast. The disciples didn't dare to delay. They immediately repelled the magical beasts in front of them and rushed out with Li Xiaotian. When a magical beast saw the disciples rushing out, they wouldn't let them go. They roared and chased after them. Suddenly, hundreds of magical beasts chased after the 20 disciples. The whole ground began to tremble. Well, stop the magical beasts around. Don't let any more in. Yi Hao looked at the disciples who were running away and said to the demon lord beside him. Yi Hao looked at the magical beasts in front of him. He estimated that the disciples would have a hard time if more magical beasts were allowed to come. Sudden emergency. Not enough time. We'll fix it before tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it would be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it would be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it would be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it would be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it would be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. If there wasn't enough time, it will be changed back to emergency by tomorrow morning. Chapter 785. When the disciples saw that the number of magical beasts had stopped increasing, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Brothers, let's hurry up and find a place that's easy to defend and hard to attack to deal with this group of magical beasts. The disciples fled with all their might. Brothers, there's a mountain ahead. Suddenly, someone shouted excitedly, "All right, let's go." When everyone saw the mountain, their faces were filled with ecstasy, because as long as they reached the foot of the mountain, they would not have to worry about their surroundings. They would only have to worry about one side and kill the magical beasts. Everyone immediately rushed to the foot of the mountain, and with their backs against the mountain, they fought the magical beasts head-on. And this time, the disciples clearly felt much more relaxed. Quite lucky. Yi Hao, who was not far away, could not help but smile when he saw this scene. As long as there were no accidents, the disciples would not be in danger when killing the magical beasts. Strange. Why haven't they returned yet? Yi Hao found it strange that the demon sovereigns had gone to stop the magical beasts, but they had not returned yet. However, Yi Hao did not care. He believed that this was still the periphery of the forest, and there would definitely not be any demon sovereign level magical beasts. And as long as no demon sovereign level magical beasts appeared, the demon sovereigns would not be in any danger. Yi Hao returned his gaze to the disciples. Yi Hao looked at the disciples' martial skills. The martial skills they used were all very simple, and they were basically all demon yellow level martial skills. Looks like when this training is over, I should give them the martial skills. The battle lasted for a day and 2 nights. It was not until the night of the second day that the disciples killed all the magical beasts. However, many wounds appeared on the bodies of the disciples, and their faces were filled with exhaustion. "Greetings, Lord." When they saw Yi Hao appear, the disciples immediately bowed. "You all performed well. These martial skills are for you." Yi Hao took out 20 martial skills and handed them to everyone. When everyone received the martial skills in their hands, the exhaustion on their faces immediately disappeared and was replaced by ecstasy. I'm not dreaming, right? They're all Dark Demon high grade martial skills. I actually have a Dark Demon level martial skill, and it's even a Dark Demon high grade martial skill. And I feel that this martial skill is simply tailor-made for me. Thank you, my lord. Everyone thanked Xia Haoshuan delightedly. All of you, take your time to comprehend what you've learned. After yesterday's battle, go and practice your martial techniques. I'll make some food for all of you first. Yi Hao smiled in satisfaction when he saw the joyful expressions on his disciples' faces. Thank you, my lord. I'm really starving to death. Just thinking about my lord's barbecued meat makes my mouth water. My lord, hurry up and roast it. I feel like I can eat an entire magical beast. When the disciples heard that Yi Hao wanted to barbecue meat, they immediately started drooling. They felt so hungry that their chests were sticking to their backs. After Yi Hao began to roast the meat, the disciples began to sit cross-legged and cultivate. Boom! Suddenly, Li Xiaoyan's aura surged, and he said happily, "Haha, I didn't expect to break through so quickly. Based on my previous cultivation speed, it would have taken me at least a few months." After Li Xiaotian finished speaking, he immediately closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. The rest of the disciples were also fully focused on their cultivation. Yihao continued to roast the meat at the side and did not disturb them. It was not until late at night that they began to open their eyes. It smells so good. I can't take it anymore. I'm starving to death. Don't snatch it. It's mine. Don't tell me there's more over there. You're too greedy, aren't you? Can you finish a magical beast? Of course I can finish it. I'm afraid this one is not enough. Most of the disciples had broken through one level in their cultivation. Those who did not break through had also improved their cultivation by a lot. Therefore, at this moment, everyone was in a very good mood and began to fight for the barbecued meat. Looking at the people fighting for the barbecued meat, Yihao frowned, because until now, the demon sovereigns had not returned. My lord, did something happen? Li Xiaotian noticed Yihao's worried look and quickly asked worriedly. Nothing. Yihao shook his head slightly. By the way, in a while, you lead the disciples to practice martial arts. I'll be out for a while, and then come back. Yihao said to Li Xiaotian. He wanted to find the demon sovereigns. Yes. Li Xiaotian saw that Yihao was unwilling to say more and did not ask any more questions. Looking at the people who were still eating the barbecued meat, Yihao identified the direction and began to move quickly. Along the way, Yihao saw the corpses of magical beasts all over the ground. Looking at the wounds on the magical beasts, they were all killed with one blow. Obviously, these wounds were caused by the demon sovereigns. That's strange. Why is there no one? Yihao searched along the way for a long time, but did not see anyone. According to the loyalty of the demon sovereigns to him, if something really happened, they would definitely report it to him. However, the sudden disappearance of all of them gave people a very strange feeling. Could it be that something really happened to them? Yihao could not help but frown. After all, what kind of existence could make 10 demon sovereigns die? Furthermore, Yihao searched for a long time, but did not see the existence of any caves. There were only dense trees everywhere. Something's not right. Yihao suddenly shuddered because he realized that the path behind him was completely different from the one he had come from. What's going on? I can't have remembered wrongly. Yihao was very sure that he had not remembered wrongly. Because he was looking for the demon sovereigns, Yihao had been very cautious. He had carefully observed every blade of grass and every tree in his surroundings. However, it was obvious that the position of the trees behind him and the position of the branches had changed. Although this change was very slight, Yihao could clearly sense it. Could I have fallen into an array formation? Yihao could not help but wonder if he had fallen into an illusory array formation. However, Yihao could not see through the array formation in front of him, even though he used his knowledge of array formations. Not only could he not see through it, but he also could not detect a trace of the aura of an array formation. Although his array formation level was still at the level of the Myriad Kingdom continent, it was not to the extent that he could not detect a trace of the aura of an array formation. Either the level of this array formation was really too high, or it meant that there was no array formation here at all. Let me see what the hell you are. Yihao immediately attacked the trees beside him. Something that shocked Yihao happened. His attack did not land on the trees. Instead, the trees actually moved. Could it be a demon tree? Yihao suddenly thought. Chapter 787. My lord, we don't know how we ended up here, and we can't find our way back. One of the demon supremacies said. That's the work of the demonic trees. Yihao explained to everyone. Demonic trees? Everyone was puzzled. They obviously didn't know what the demonic trees were. Yihao immediately explained the existence of the demonic trees to everyone. When everyone heard this, they all secretly gasped. This was because they didn't know about the existence of the demonic trees at all. They also thought that they had fallen into an illusion, so they had been looking for an exit. They could imagine that if Yihao hadn't come to save them, they would have died here sooner or later. At the same time, everyone couldn't help but be amazed. Although Yihao was young, he knew more things than them. Most importantly, they had also attacked the demonic trees before. However, they couldn't cause any harm to the demonic trees at all. So they simply gave up on attacking the demonic trees. It could be said that the 10 demon supremacies couldn't compare to Yihao alone. Yi Hao alone took care of all the demonic trees. Thank you, my lord, for saving our lives. Everyone quickly thanked Yi Hao. Get up. This forest is full of danger. There's still a long way to go. You must be careful in the future. Yi Hao reminded everyone. Everyone nodded when they heard Yi Hao's reminder. After all, they were safe and sound when they encountered the demonic trees this time, because the demonic trees didn't attack. If they encountered something powerful again, they didn't know if they would be so lucky as to wait for Yi Hao to save them. Let's go back first. Yi Hao glanced at the demonic trees that had been burned to ashes. There was no need to stay here any longer. Moreover, Yi Hao was also worried about the safety of his disciples. Yes, the demon supremacies immediately followed behind Yi Hao and rushed back. Oh no, something happened. Yi Hao returned to the place where the disciples were and realized that there was no one there. Yi Hao immediately looked around and couldn't help but frown because he saw a few pools of blood. Don't come out yet. Just as the demon sovereigns were about to come out to check, Yi Hao suddenly transmitted his voice. That was because he heard strange movements coming from not too far away. Who is it? Yi Hao took out his weapon and looked cautiously in the direction of the commotion. Haha, I didn't expect my gains to be so good today. I've caught another prey. It's just that his cultivation base is a little weak. A figure landed in front of Yi Hao and let out a strange laugh. The voice was wearing a black, blood-red robe with an evil aura. Who are you? Yi Hao looked at the newcomer warily. I'm Heaven Blood Demon Venerate. Brat, have you heard of my great name? Heaven Blood Demon Venerate spoke in an arrogant tone while looking at Yi Hao with disdain. I have never heard of Heaven Blood Demon Venerable, but I have heard of Heaven Shit Demon Venerable, Yi Hao said with a smile. Who is Heaven Shit Demon Venerable? Heaven Blood Demon Venerable thought carefully. When he saw the smile on Yi Hao's face, how could he not know that he had been tricked? He was instantly enraged. Brat, you have guts. How dare you trick me? Let's see how I'll capture you and refine you into my cultivation base. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable exuded a monstrous blood aura and pounced on Yi Hao. Yi Hao only pretended to struggle and fell into Heaven Blood Demon Venerable's hands. Yi Hao guessed that the disciples had been captured by Heaven Blood Demon Venerable. Therefore, in order to save the outstanding disciples, he could only follow Heaven Blood Demon Venerable to his lair. Brat, aren't you very arrogant? You still ended up in my hands. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable looked at Yi Hao with disdain. Old man, if you have the ability, let me go. I'll find you and destroy you. Yi Hao deliberately said, ruthlessly. The person who wants to destroy me hasn't been born yet. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable snorted coldly. He grabbed Yi Hao and left quickly. Yi Hao was caught in the hands of a demon venerable. Although his face showed panic, his heart was incomparably calm. After all, there were still 10 demon venerables behind him. If they attacked together, Heaven Blood Demon Venerable would be beaten to a pulp. Where are you bringing me? Yi Hao felt bored and asked Heaven Blood Demon Venerable. You'll know when we arrive. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable clearly could not be bothered with Yi Hao. How much longer? Yi Hao continued to ask. Haha, this is the first time I've seen someone in a hurry to die. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Heaven Blood Demon Venerable sneered. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable was not afraid of Yi Hao playing tricks. After all, Yi Hao was not a mere demon king realm. In Heaven Blood Demon Venerable's opinion, with Yi Hao's cultivation base, he could kill him with a pinky. Speaking of him, he had been capturing people for so long. It was only today that it took him a little more effort. In order to capture those 20 demon emperors, the 3 of his brothers attacked together before they captured those 20 people. And he came back to see if there were any fish that escaped the net. He did not expect that he would actually capture Yi Hao. Big brother, third brother, I'm back. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable brought Yi Hao to the front of a large mountain. After several turns, a huge cave appeared in front of Yi Hao. Yi Hao looked at this cave and immediately frowned. Although Yi Hao had killed countless people, smelling the smell of blood that filled the air in the cave still made him feel somewhat uncomfortable, because it was as if he had entered a world of blood. The thick smell of blood made people feel dizzy when they smelled it. But fortunately, Yihao adapted for a while and felt much better. After all, the number of people he had killed was not few. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable's attention was always on Yihao. When he saw Yihao return to normal so quickly, he could not help but feel incomparably surprised. This was because every time he captured people, most of them would faint from the smell of blood and an invisible attack the moment they entered the cave. And a small number of people would turn pale and vomit. Like Yihao, who recovered after a slight discomfort, this had never happened before. Second brother, why are you back so late? I was still waiting for you to come back and let those people bleed so that we can bathe in blood together. That's right. Second brother, you don't know. The people we captured this time are all quite talented, and their cultivation is also very high. It will definitely allow our cultivation to soar. Yihao looked at the two people who walked out. They were dressed similarly to Heaven Blood Demon Venerable, and the aura on the two of them was also filled with an evil aura. Yihao knew that the three people in front of him should be evil cultivators. And evil cultivators were hated by everyone in the ancient demon domain. This was because evil cultivators did not cultivate like ordinary warriors. Instead, they specialized in unorthodox ways to raise their cultivation. From their words, Yihao was able to deduce that the three of them were specifically relying on absorbing human blood to cultivate. Chapter 788. The most despicable thing was that the three of them could have provoked anyone, but they had to provoke him. Big brother, third brother, didn't I catch another kid? Heaven Blood Demon Venerable immediately replied with a smile. The two of them looked at Yihao in Heaven Blood Demon Venerable's hands with disdain. Second brother, you are really something. You actually want such trash. The big brother could not be bothered to look at Yihao. Although the third brother did not say anything, his thoughts were almost the same as the big brother's. Big brother, second brother, you are wrong. As the saying goes, no matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable laughed. All right then, hurry up and tie this kid up. We will burn incense and change our clothes. We will bathe in blood together later. Hearing Heaven Blood Demon Venerable's words, the big brother did not say anything else and urged Heaven Blood Demon Venerable. Lord, why are you caught too? You evil people, let go of my lord if you have the ability. Lord, are you all right? Yihao was caught by Heaven Blood Demon Venerable and brought to the depths of the cave. In the depths of the vast cave, there was a blood pool close to 1,000 square meters. At this moment, the 20 disciples were tied to the stone pillars beside the blood pool. When the 20 disciples saw Yihao, they were instantly worried and looked angrily at Heaven Blood Demon Venerable and the rest. Interesting. I didn't expect you to know each other. You are actually their lord. Heaven Blood Demon Venerable was surprised when he saw the disciples calling Yihao their lord. However, you don't have to be anxious. You will be going to hell together soon. Ha ha ha. After Heaven Blood Demon Venerable tied Yihao to the pillar, he turned around and left with a smile. Lord, the disciples looked at Yihao anxiously. Originally, they were still hoping that Yihao could save them. However, now that Yihao was caught, their faces turned ashen. All of them were anxious and uneasy, especially when they were faced with the blood pool that was close to 1,000 square meters. Don't worry, I will bring you out. Yihao looked at the anxious disciples and said. The disciples quieted down immediately, but their faces were filled with disbelief. It was because the ropes that tied them up were made of special materials. Even peak demon emperors couldn't break free from them. Even if they released Yihao, they probably wouldn't be able to untie them. What's more, Yihao is also tied up here. However, Yihao did not explain. Instead, with a serious expression, he took out 100 demonic tree seeds and threw them into the blood pool. This was because the demon sovereigns had not arrived yet. Yihao had to prepare a life-saving measure first. Otherwise, by the time the demon venerables arrived, they would have already turned into dried corpses. The 100 demon tree seeds were thrown into the blood pool and immediately began to germinate rapidly, growing into saplings. That was because the blood pool was filled with essence blood, which was exactly what the demon tree needed to grow. When the disciples saw this scene, they were completely stunned. Oh my God, what is this thing? Why is it growing so fast? What am I seeing? These saplings seem to be absorbing the blood in the pool. Where did the Lord get these things from? The disciples exclaimed as they looked at the demon tree seeds that were growing rapidly. At first, the demon tree seeds were only the size of a pea. But in the blink of an eye, they grew to the size of an arm and were more than a meter tall. However, this was far from over. The demon tree seeds were still absorbing the blood in the pool crazily. With every breath, the demon tree seeds grew larger. After an unknown period of time, the demon tree seeds had all grown to the size of a dozen meters. Moreover, their thickness had also reached the size of an ordinary person's waist. As for the 100 demon tree seeds, they seemed to have turned into a forest and occupied the blood pool. However, at this moment, the blood in the blood pool had completely disappeared. What is the Lord trying to do? Is he trying to use these trees to deal with the 3 demons? I reckon these trees are not enough for the 3 demons to chop down. I reckon those demons will definitely go crazy when they see the blood that they have painstakingly accumulated disappear. The disciples looked at the demon tree seeds and discussed in confusion. Obviously, they didn't understand what Yi Hao was trying to do. Yi Hao looked at the 100 demon tree seeds and calmed down slightly. According to his calculations, the demon sovereigns should be arriving soon. At first, Yi Hao was afraid of being discovered by the demon sovereign. Therefore, he purposely kept the demon sovereigns away from the demon sovereign. With a thought, Yi Hao moved the 100 demon tree seeds around the disciples. The demon tree seeds formed an inner layer and an outer layer, protecting the disciples in the middle. Am I dreaming? What am I seeing? The trees can move. This is simply too terrifying. What exactly are these things that the Lord has brought over? They grew from seeds to trees in the blink of an eye. They can even move. Why haven't I heard of this before? When the disciples saw that the devil tree, which had been in the blood pool at the beginning, had moved to their side, they were even more shocked. What's going on? Just as the disciples were still in shock, demon venerable heaven blood shout was suddenly heard. The demon sovereign first looked at the demon tree seeds. Then, he looked at the empty blood pool and let out a furious roar. Second brother, what's wrong? The demon sovereign's roar attracted the attention of the other 2. When the 2 of them came in, they looked at the demon tree seeds and then at the empty blood pool. What's going on? The big brother exuded a murderous aura. One had to know that the blood pool contained a year's worth of blood essence that they had accumulated. When the blood pool was full, the 3 of them had been waiting for this opportunity to break through. However, when they were ready, they suddenly realized that the blood pool was empty. This meant that their efforts of a year had been wasted. How could they not be angry? Big brother, it must be second brother who caught them. That bastard is up to no good. The third brother said with a murderous aura. Kill. The big brother spat out. At this moment, he was filled with anger. Only by killing Yi Hao and the others could he vent the anger in his heart. Big brother, wait a minute. I feel that these trees are weird. There have never been any plants in our cave. Even if there were, they would have been corroded to death by the blood. Moreover, why are there so many trees here? Although the demon sovereign was furious, he pulled the big brother's shoulder cautiously. Second brother, what are you afraid of? It's just some trees. Just destroy them. The third brother said nonchalantly when he saw the worried look on the demon sovereign's face. Chapter 789. After Big Brother and Third Brother finished speaking, they ignored Demon Venerate Tian Shui and attacked the demonic trees. When Demon Venerate Tian Shui saw Big Brother and Third Brother attacking the demonic trees, he stood aside cautiously. Even now, he still felt that there was something strange about these trees. They are moving. They are actually moving. Big Brother, Second Brother, be careful. Demon Venerate Tian Shui's attention was focused on the demonic trees. When Big Brother and Third Brother arrived before the demonic trees, dozens of demonic trees suddenly moved and surrounded the 2 of them. What the hell is this? Why can't we attack them? Big Brother and Third Brother's reaction was too slow, and they were surrounded by the demonic trees. After Big Brother finished attacking the demonic trees, he realized that it was not as he had imagined. The demonic trees were smashed into pieces, and only a mark appeared on the demonic trees. This mark was insignificant to the demonic trees, but to Big Brother, it made him a little flustered. Blood lightning palm. Third Brother used his martial skill and attacked the demonic trees. A gigantic bloody palm, faintly crackling with lightning, slammed into the demon tree's body. However, the demonic trees only trembled a little. Big Brother, what is going on? Third Brother panicked when he realized that his blood lightning palm could not attack the demonic trees. The blood lightning palm was a martial skill that the three of them shared, and it was also their most powerful martial skill. However, it could not harm the demonic trees. Second Brother, think of a way to save us. Big Brother shouted anxiously. Demon Venerate Tian Shui heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Big Brother's voice and knew that Big Brother was fine for now. However, his face was filled with shock, and he looked at the demonic trees cautiously. He had never imagined that there would be trees in this world that even Demon Venerates could not do anything to. However, Demon Venerate Tian Shui did not dare to step forward rashly because he was afraid that he would be trapped by the demonic trees. However, he also knew that these demonic trees should have been created by Yi Hao. Demon Venerate Tian Shui lowered his voice and asked, "Little friend, are you still here?" When Yi Hao heard Demon Venerate Tian Shui's voice, he could not help but smile. "Who is your little friend? If I remember correctly, you wanted to kill us." At this moment, all the disciples were completely shocked. They had personally witnessed the growth of the demon tree in such a short period of time. Although they all felt that the devil tree was extremely astonished, they had never heard of a tree that could grow by sucking blood. However, those were negligible. To their surprise, these demon trees were actually so powerful. Even the demon lord's attack was unable to do anything to them. At this moment, all the disciples heaved a sigh of relief. With the protection of the demon tree, at least for now, their lives were guaranteed. Cough, cough. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Demon Venerable Heaven Blood coughed awkwardly. But now that Big Brother and Third Brother were trapped, he had no choice but to lower his attitude towards Yi Hao. "Young friend, this is all a misunderstanding. Both of you are currently tied up. Why don't we each take a step back? You release my Big Brother and Third Brother, and I will release the both of you. Let's mind our own business." Demon Venerate Tian Shui's eyes were filled with murderous intent, but his tone was still friendly. He had already planned everything out. As long as Yi Hao released his Big Brother and Third Brother, he would block the entrance of the cave and trap Yi Hao and the others inside. However, Yi Hao ignored him. How could he have known that Yi Hao was also stalling for time and waiting for the Demon Venerates to arrive? Demon Venerate Tian Shui became anxious when he saw that Yi Hao wasn't speaking. "How about this? If you release my Big Brother and Third Brother, I will give you some blood martial elixirs." Demon Venerate Tian Shui continued. "What are blood martial elixirs? Are they evil elixirs refined using human blood?" Yi Hao couldn't help but feel curious about the blood martial elixirs when he heard Demon Venerate Tian Shui's words. "Little friend, don't misunderstand. The blood martial elixirs are elixirs that the three of us obtained by chance. They are definitely not refined using human blood. The blood martial elixirs are useless to demon venerates, but they can greatly increase the cultivation of a demon emperor." Demon Venerate Tian Shui hurriedly explained. "Think about it. If you don't release my Big Brother and Third Brother, you won't leave this place alive." Demon Venerate Tian Shui continued. "How about I untie you first before you release my Big Brother and Third Brother?" Demon Venerate Tian Shui's eyes were filled with murderous intent. In his opinion, as long as he captured Yi Hao, he would be able to rescue his Big Brother and Third Brother. "No need," Yi Hao suddenly said. "What do you mean?" Demon Venerate Tian Shui couldn't help but frown when he heard Yi Hao's words. "Could it be that you really want to die?" Demon Venerate Tian Shui really regretted not killing Yi Hao when he had captured Yi Hao. Now, he had brought him so much trouble. "No, you are wrong. You are the ones who will die." Yi Hao's voice was heard again. What do you mean? Demon Venerate Tian Shui looked at Demon Tree and narrowed his eyes. If I'm not wrong, your trees can't be attacked at all. I advise you to stop pretending. I will release you, and you will release my big brother and third brother. Isn't that the best of both worlds? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Yi Hao ignored Demon Venerate Tian Shui and suddenly shouted. Don't pretend to be. Before Demon Venerate Tian Shui could finish his sentence, his face suddenly turned ugly. That was because he could sense close to 10 powerful auras outside the cave that were not weaker than his own. Demon Venerate Tian Shui couldn't help but take a few steps back. However, when he thought of Demon Tree behind him, he couldn't help but stop in his tracks. Demon Venerate Tian Shui felt that he was in a dilemma. He couldn't help but look at the entrance of the cave cautiously. My lord, we came too late. Please punish us. At that moment, 10 figures suddenly appeared and blocked the entrance of the cave. Most importantly, these 10 figures all had the aura of a Demon Venerate. Demon Venerate Tian Shui's face turned ashen. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate today. Who are you? Demon Venerate Tian Shui shouted at Yi Hao in a panic. He really didn't dare to imagine what kind of existence could bring 10 Demon Venerates along with him. Kill him. Yi Hao couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Demon Venerate Tian Shui. One must know that he was still tied up, and he felt uncomfortable all over. Hearing Yi Hao's order, the 10 Demon Venerates immediately attacked Demon Venerate Tian Shui. No, don't! Demon Venerate Tian Shui shouted in horror. Because facing 10 Demon Venerates, he didn't even have the strength to retaliate. Demon Venerate Tian Shui only suffered one attack from a group and died tragically under their weapons. Second brother, are you all right? Second brother, what happened? Chapter 790. The disciples were also puzzled because they couldn't see the situation outside. However, they were able to guess that they would be saved. Thus, they all had joyous expressions on their faces. At the same time, the disciples looked at Yi Hao with admiration. They had thought that they were going to die today. They did not expect Yi Hao to appear and save them. Master, are you all right? At this moment, Yi Hao made the demon trees open up a path. The 10 demon supremacies looked at Yi Hao and asked. However, the 10 demon supremacies were also shocked. They had seen demon trees before, and the trees before them were obviously demon trees. They had all comprehended the demonic trees' powerful defense and trapping ability. However, they saw that the demon trees seemed to be under Yi Hao's control. They could not believe how Yi Hao had done it. However, the demon supremacies did not dare to ask further. They immediately untied Yi Hao and the others. After Yi Hao was untied, he immediately stretched his body. Then, he led the group to the demon trees that surrounded the two of them. With a thought, Yi Hao made the demon trees open up a path that was as wide as a person. Boss, there's a way out. The third brother saw the exit and immediately shouted in joy. Let's go. The eldest brother did not care about anything else. He did not want to be trapped here. He immediately said to the third brother and wanted to rush out. Little bastard, I'm going to kill you. The first person the eldest brother saw was Yi Hao. He immediately charged at Yi Hao angrily. You're courting death. Seeing the eldest brother's actions, the demon supremacies did not agree. They immediately joined forces and attacked the eldest brother. The eldest brother's outcome was the same as the demon supremacies. He did not even have the chance to retaliate and was killed. No, big brother. The third brother who followed the eldest brother out shouted in despair when he saw the eldest brother who had been killed. You bastards, I'm going to fight it out with you. The third brother shouted angrily. He went into a frenzy and attacked the group. But with his strength, it was naturally like an egg smashing against a rock. He was instantly killed. The three brothers of the Heaven Blood Demon Highness had been committing all kinds of crimes in this forest. They could be said to have robbed countless people just for their blood essence. But who would have thought that they would provoke Yi Hao and get wiped out by Yi Hao? Yi Hao walked in front of the three corpses. He still coveted the blood martial elixir that Demon Venerable Heaven Blood had mentioned. Although he didn't need these pills, his disciples did. In order to challenge the Tianyuan Academy, the disciples had to raise their cultivation as fast as possible. Even though the cultivation of the disciples had risen significantly compared to before, they were still unable to withstand the pressure. But to Yi Hao, it was still far from enough. Yi Hao found storage rings from Heaven Blood Demon Venerable and the other two. It seems like these three people have killed a lot of people. Yi Hao looked at the storage rings of the three people. There were piles of all kinds of weapons. Just the amount of spirit coins in the three people's storage rings was enough to dazzle one. After rummaging through the three people's storage rings, Yi Hao finally took out two items. One was a blood red elixir. There were about 40 to 50 of them. The other item was a piece of beast skin. Yi Hao first distributed the blood martial elixir to the disciples. When the disciples received the blood martial elixir, they immediately swallowed it and started cultivating. Seeing that the disciples were immersed in cultivation, Yi Hao immediately looked at the map. This is a map. Yi Hao looked at the map. It was a map of a part of the magical beast forest. Could there be something good here? Yi Hao looked at the map and suddenly thought excitedly. This route matches the one I mentioned. I can go and take a look. Yi Hao looked at the map. The last place marked on the map was obviously on the way to the Tianyuan Academy. Yi Hao couldn't help but make up his mind. This time, the disciples generally took a longer time to cultivate. It took them a total of 4 days to complete their cultivation. All the disciples' realms had increased significantly. Half of them had increased by 2 levels, while the other half had increased by 1 level. My lord, what elixir is this? It's simply too powerful. The power contained in the elixir is really irresistible. It would be great if we could get a few more of these elixirs. The disciples all said excitedly. They realized that following Yi Hao was the happiest moment of their lives. They had only been following Yi Hao for a few days, but on average, their strength had increased by 2 to 3 levels. To them, this was absolutely like a dream. Based on their previous speed, it would have taken them at least 3 to 5 months to raise their cultivation by 1 level. It would have taken them at least a year or so to increase their cultivation by 2 or 3 levels. However, following Yi Hao, they had done it without much effort. Let's go. Let's continue. Yi Hao saw that the disciples had completed their breakthroughs and had no choice but to continue on their journey. He was also very curious about the animal skin map. What shocked Yi Hao was that the demonic trees could be kept in the system space. This was no different from having another life-saving method for Yi Hao. After all, he had seen how powerful the demonic trees were. They were existences that could even trap the demon lord. Yi Hao could not help but be curious. He did not know if the demonic trees could trap the demon lord. If they could, then they would be invincible. The disciples once again set off on their journey to Tianyuan Academy. This time, Yi Hao did not assign any task to the disciples to hunt for demonic beasts. Instead, he let the disciples practice their respective martial techniques. Yi Hao also discovered a better way to train the disciples than using demonic beasts. That was to use the demonic trees. In front of the demonic trees' strong defense, the disciples' strength could not cause any harm to the demonic trees. Yi Hao ordered the demonic trees to continuously use their branches to attack the disciples. What surprised Yi Hao was that the demonic trees did not know how to attack other than defense. This made Yi Hao understand why the demonic trees did not kill people, but only trap people. They would trap people until they died and then absorb their blood essence. Under Yi Hao's continuous orders, the demonic trees finally understood what it meant to attack. Under the attacks of the demonic trees, the disciples' proficiency in their martial techniques increased tremendously. Most of the disciples' martial techniques had already reached the basic mastery level. A few disciples had even reached the proficient level. One had to know that this was an advanced mystic demon martial technique. To be able to master it in just a few days was enough to prove that the disciples were very talented. Rumble. Just as Yi Hao was watching the disciples practice their martial techniques, the ground suddenly began to shake violently. Immediately, Everyone stopped what they were doing and gathered around Yihao. "Master, it seems like a beast tide," a demon lord said. Chapter 791. Be alert, Yihao said sternly to the crowd. In his opinion, the number of demonic beasts that could cause such a huge beast horde was definitely not a small number. "My lord, the demonic beasts seem to be heading in our direction," one of the demon supremacies said with a frown. "Let's leave this place first." Yihao looked ahead when he heard the demon supremacies. Smoke and dust filled the sky. The demonic beasts were indeed heading in their direction. Everyone quickly left the place when they heard Yihao's words. "Quick, look at the crowd. Let's overtake them. Right, attack them." At this moment, Yihao suddenly heard a clamor coming from behind him. Yihao frowned when he heard what these people said. That was because the thoughts of these people were simply too sinister. After all, everyone knew that whoever fell behind in front of the beast horde would most likely end up as food for the demonic beasts. As for those who fled in front, they would have a higher chance of survival. To begin with, one had to rely on one's strength and luck to survive. Who would have thought that the people behind them would actually want to attack them? Since they had said so, Yihao would not stand on ceremony. He said to the demon supremacies, "Break the legs of the people behind us later." Yes, the demon supremacies heard what the people behind them said. Even without Yihao's order, they would have done so. "Friends in front, wait for us." The people behind saw that Yihao and the rest were moving faster and shouted, "This bunch of idiots." Yihao could not help but doubt the intelligence of this group of people when he heard the shouts behind him. Previously, they were shouting so loudly and wanted to attack him. Now, they were asking him to slow down. However, Yihao was very cooperative and slowed down. As for the group of people behind them, when they saw that Yihao and the others had actually slowed down, their faces involuntarily revealed mocking smiles. "Everyone, if you want to live, listen to my order and attack," a man said sinisterly. When these people got closer before the sinister man could say anything, Yihao suddenly ordered, "Attack." Meanwhile, the demon sovereigns were already prepared to attack. Their attacks landed on the demon sovereigns. On the other hand, the group of people were stunned by the sudden attack of the demon venerables. None of them had expected Yihao and the others to make the first move. "Oh, my leg. My leg is broken. Help. You guys are really ruthless." That group of people all had their legs broken by the demon sovereigns, causing them to cry out in pain. "Why? Why did you attack us?" One of them suddenly looked at Yihao with resentment. "In the future, if you want to harm others, you should keep your voice down. However, that depends on whether you can survive today." Yihao glanced at the approaching smoke and dust and immediately led everyone away. As for the people who were left behind with broken legs, their faces were ashen as they looked at the approaching smoke and dust. Their faces were filled with fear and regret. Yihao led the group and fled for several hours before the beast tide behind them finally dispersed. However, to Yihao's satisfaction, no one died. "Let's rest for a while before continuing our journey," Yihao said to the disciples. "Lord, we are all hungry from running. Can you roast some meat for us?" At this moment, a disciple looked at Yihao enviously. Upon hearing this disciple's words, the rest also looked at Yihao enviously. One had to know that ever since they had experienced the charm of roasting meat, they had also tried roasting meat. However, they had never been able to roast meat as delicious as Yihao's. In the end, all of them simply gave up. This was because after eating Yihao's roasted meat, eating their own roasted meat was like chewing wax. Yihao looked at the disciples who had already prepared the magical beasts and firewood. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Then, he began to roast the meat skillfully. And when the disciples saw that Yihao was roasting meat for them, all of them worked hard and began to cultivate while sitting cross-legged. After all, Yihao had been so good to them. They couldn't let Yihao down. If they lost the competition, they would feel guilty. Therefore, the disciples didn't let go of any opportunities and began to cultivate with all their might. However, with their powerful talents, their cultivation could be said to have progressed at a tremendous pace. They improved rapidly. Who roasted this meat? Can you share some with us? At this moment, a pleasant voice sounded in Yi Hao's ears. However, Yi Hao ignored it and continued to roast the food in his hands. After all, the people in this world were sinister. Furthermore, they were in a desolate forest that was filled with killing. Therefore, Yi Hao had to be on his guard. When Zhao Ling saw that Yi Hao didn't leave him, he couldn't help but look at the few demon supremacies. Lords, I wonder if you can get your servants to roast some meat for us. We can avenge you a little. It turned out that Zhao Ling saw that Yi Hao's cultivation was the lowest among all of them. The other disciples were cultivating, and only Yi Hao was busy. Therefore, he naturally thought that Yi Hao was a servant who roasted meat for them. As for those middle-aged men, it was clear that they were the strongest among them. Zhao Ling wanted to find someone to discuss with, so he naturally targeted the demon supremacies. As for the demon supremacies, they had ugly and awkward expressions because Yi Hao was their lord. However, in Zhao Ling's words, he was reduced to a servant. Junior sister, there's no need to be like this. Watch me. At this moment, a young man behind Zhao Ling immediately walked in front of Yi Hao in order to show off in front of Zhao Ling. Young man, help us roast some meat. This pile of spirit coins is for you. It was obvious that the young man's status was not ordinary. He directly threw nearly 1,000 spirit coins in front of Yi Hao. Obviously, he did not take Yi Hao seriously. After all, Yi Hao's cultivation was only in the Demon King realm, and the young man naturally treated Yi Hao as a servant roasting meat. Scram, Yi Hao said without raising his head. What did you say, you dog? Do you want to die? When the young man heard Yi Hao's words, he was afraid that he had heard wrongly. The young man felt that he had lost face in front of Zhao Ling. With a backhand palm, he struck Yi Hao's back. Qin Tian, stop it. Don't mess around. Zhao Ling did not expect Qin Tian to be so reckless and hurriedly stopped him. However, Qin Tian would not listen to her. His eyes were filled with killing intent. I told you to scram. Yi Hao sensed Qin Tian's movement and immediately struck back. His palm landed on Qin Tian's palm. Gotcha! The sound of bones breaking rang out, and Qin Tian screamed miserably as he was sent flying. Ah, my hand is broken. It hurts. Qin Tian screamed in pain. Kill him for me. Chapter 792. Everyone was shocked when they saw that Qin Tian was injured. Although Qin Tian wasn't strong, he was still a third-order demon emperor. Yi Hao, on the other hand, was only in the Demon King realm. They couldn't believe their eyes. The one who was defeated wasn't Yi Hao, but Qin Tian. However, when they thought of Qin Tian's identity, they knew that he was someone they had to curry favor with. All of them wanted to make a move on Yi Hao. Whoever dares to make a move will end up like him. Yi Hao continued to roast the meat in his hand without even lifting his head. Everyone hesitated when they heard Yi Hao's words. After all, although they were more or less stronger than Qin Tian, it was only by a little. Seeing how Yi Hao defeated Qin Tian so easily, they guessed that they wouldn't be able to gain any advantage against Yi Hao. Didn't you hear me? Cripple him. Qin Tian roared when he saw everyone's hesitation. After all, this was the first time someone dared to be so ruthless to him and break his arm. Most importantly, this was done in front of Zhao Ling. This made him feel very embarrassed, so he had to get back at her. Everyone looked at each other. They couldn't do anything to Qin Tian. Although they felt bitter, they decided to make a move on Yi Hao. After all, they couldn't afford to offend Qin Tian's background. After weighing the pros and cons, they resolutely prepared to make a move on Yi Hao. All of you, back off with me. Zhao Ling was suddenly shouted when everyone was about to make a move. Everyone stopped and retreated to the side when they heard Zhao Ling's words. At the same time, they heaved a sigh of relief. If Qin Tian hadn't forced them, they wouldn't have wanted to make a move on Yi Hao. However, with Zhao Ling's order, it didn't have to listen to Qin Tian at all. Junior sister, my arm was broken by him. Don't tell me you won't take revenge for me? Qin Tian looked at Zhao Ling angrily. You were the one who wanted to make a move. Furthermore, your skills were inferior. Who can you blame? Zhao Ling's eyes flashed with disgust as he looked at Qin Tian. One idiot. Can't he see that there are so many experts here? How dare he cause trouble? At this moment, Zhao Linger had already cursed Qin Tian thousands of times in his heart. After all, as long as one was a normal person, they would be able to tell that those 10 middle-aged men were all experts. Yet, Qin Tian actually dared to cause trouble. Zhao Linger was truly afraid that if they angered the demon sovereigns would attack them. At that time, they would really be doomed. Moreover, the strength of those disciples who were cultivating was definitely not below theirs. It was obvious that they were at a disadvantage. At this moment, Zhao Linger truly regretted coming out with Qin Tian. Everyone, I'm sorry. My friend is a little reckless. We will take our leave first. Zhao Linger immediately cupped his fists and said to everyone, although it was a pity that they couldn't eat that tempting barbecue, Qin Tian felt that it was a pity. However, it was still better than letting Qin Tian continue to stay here. When the time comes, he would cause trouble and lose his life. Zhao Linger looked at Yi Hao, who was still barbecuing, and turned to leave. Wait a minute. At this moment, Yi Hao suddenly spoke. Zhao Linger frowned and looked at Yi Hao warily. What's the matter, friend? Is there anything else? You're a good person. Take this barbecue as my treat. Yi Hao tossed the barbecue in his hand directly to Zhao Linger. When Zhao Linger heard Yi Hao's words, she was clearly stunned. She originally thought that after Qin Tian's disturbance, she would no longer have the chance to eat this tempting barbecue. However, she didn't expect that things would take a turn for the better. Yi Hao took the initiative to give her a barbecue. Although Zhao Linger didn't understand what Yi Hao was trying to do, she still reached out and caught the barbecue. Zhao Linger wanted to thank Yi Hao, but Yi Hao interrupted her. If there's nothing else, you'd better leave. Zhao Linger stomped her feet in anger when Yi Hao directly asked her to leave. One must know that with her status and looks, she would be treated like a moon surrounded by stars no matter where she went. In order to get close to her, everyone couldn't wait to curry favor with her. Who would have thought that there would be a day when someone would ask her to leave? Zhao Linger looked angrily at Yi Hao. She wanted to say something, but she realized that Yi Hao had lowered his head again and was talking about barbecue. This made her unable to say the words that were already at the tip of her tongue. Zhao Linger looked at Yi Hao until she remembered Yi Hao's face. Then, she turned around to receive the gift. When everyone saw Zhao Linger leave, they immediately chased after her. As for Qin Tian, he was left behind. When he saw that everyone had abandoned him, he gritted his teeth and shot a resentful look at Yi Hao. Then, he hugged his arms and quickly left. Seeing Zhao Linger and the others leave, Yi Hao couldn't help but put down the barbecue in his hand and murmured, I didn't expect to see Tunyuan Academy's disciples here. When they heard Yi Hao's words, the demon venerables were immediately stunned and walked forward. My lord, you said that they are Tianyuan Academy's disciples. When he heard the demon venerables' questions, Yi Hao nodded. Yes, let the disciples start eating, Yi Hao said to the demon venerables. Then he took out a map. Due to the influence of the beast tide, the route that everyone took to escape changed drastically. After looking at it for a while, Yi Hao had already determined the direction. He also picked up the barbecue and started eating. Meanwhile, in a small valley, Zhao Linger was eating barbecue, her eyes shining. Oh my God, how can there be such delicious food? After Zhao Linger took a bite, she felt that she couldn't stop eating. She couldn't control her mouth at all and kept eating the barbecue in her hand. One had to know that she had eaten barbecue in the past, but she had never eaten such delicious barbecue. In Zhao Linger's eyes, this barbecue had completely surpassed all the delicacies she had eaten in the past. Zhao Linger realized that her appetite had suddenly increased crazily. Only when her stomach was full to the point that she couldn't eat anymore did she reluctantly stop. When the crowd saw the way Zhao Linger ate, they were all stunned. One had to know that they had never seen Zhao Linger eat like that before. It could be described as a whirlwind. However, it was hard for them to imagine that the barbecue would be so delicious that it could make Zhao Linger behave like that. She didn't care about her image at all. When the crowd saw that there was still more than half of the barbecue in Zhao Linger's hand, They were all salivating. They were all eager to have a taste of the barbecue and see how it was like. However, who would have thought that Zhao Linger would just keep the barbecue? The crowd was obviously stunned. They hadn't expected that Zhao Linger would keep the barbecue without giving them share. Chapter 793. Then you can have these pastries. Zhao Ling took out some pastries and handed them to everyone. Everyone looked at the pastries with astonishment on their faces. The reason for that was because Zhao Ling's pastries were not ordinary pastries. They could be described as precious jade plates. Only Zhao Ling could carry them around and eat them as dry rations. They were only lucky enough to get some from Zhao Ling. Ever since they ate them, they couldn't forget the taste of the pastries. However, they had only tried a little and were too embarrassed to ask Zhao Ling for more. It was obvious that Zhao Ling liked to eat pastries. Pastries were Zhao Ling's favorite. However, Zhao Ling didn't want to give them the roasted meat. Instead, he took out his favorite pastries and gave them to everyone. Everyone couldn't help but think about how delicious the roasted meat must be for Zhao Ling to be like this. This made everyone even more curious about the taste of the roasted meat. However, Zhao Ling's expression was clearly saying, "You want to get the roasted meat from me? Impossible." Everyone could only take the pastries and start eating. After all, they were also very envious of the pastries. Now that they could eat their fill thanks to the roasted meat, they were very satisfied. "Young Master Qin Tian, do you want some?" One of them walked up to Qin Tian with the pastries and asked. "Scram!" Qin Tian scolded unhappily. His face was still full of murderous intent. "You dog, I won't let you off." Qin Tian looked at his broken shoulder and said fiercely, "Hurry up and eat. We still have to rush back to the academy after eating." Zhao Ling said, ignoring Qin Tian. They had come to the forest because they had accepted the academy's mission to train and kill demonic beasts. Now that the mission was completed, they naturally had to go back. Zhao Ling looked at the roasted meat in the space and thought about Xia Haoxuan's appearance. He muttered to himself, "I wonder if we will have the chance to meet again in the future. One interesting roasted meat guy." After the disciples finished eating, Yihao immediately started searching according to the map on the animal skin. According to the clues on the animal skin, Yihao guessed that this might be a ruin or a secret realm. One had to know that as long as it was a relic or a mystic realm, it represented an opportunity. Since he was lucky enough to obtain this map, and the route was the same, Yihao naturally did not want to miss it and wanted to take a look. Moreover, Yihao had a guess in his heart. If this guess was correct, it could greatly increase the strength of the disciples. The group traveled at full speed for more than 10 days. Over the past 10 days, they traveled during the day and had the disciples kill demonic beasts or cultivate at night. Therefore, in these 10 days, all the disciples also had their own improvements. However, it was clear that his improvement was not as fast as it had been at the beginning. According to the location on the map, it should be around here. Yihao led everyone to a desolate area. "My lord, what are we doing here? There isn't even a single magical beast here." Everyone looked around in panic. Not to mention that there were no magical beasts. There wasn't even a single tree. There were only weeds all over the ground. "There is an array here," Yihao said sternly when he heard the puzzled words of the disciples. Even though the level of his array formation was too low, he could sense that there was an array formation here. Yihao guessed correctly. The location marked on the map was here. Moreover, this place was definitely not a desolate place. Then there was only one possibility. The real environment and things were hidden by an array formation. Therefore, when they saw this place, they would think that it was a desolate place. Only when they found the real entrance could they see the real face of this place. "Follow me and don't wander off," Yihao instructed everyone, and then began to search carefully for the entrance of the array formation. As for the crowd, they were all dumbfounded. They did not know what Yihao was trying to do. This was because they felt that this place was a desolate place, and it was very real. How could it be that there was an array formation here, as Yihao said? However, no one dared to disobey Yihao's orders. They followed closely behind Yi Hao. Everyone followed Yi Hao and walked around this desolate place for 3 to 4 days. However, they still did not find anything. "My lord, what are you looking for?" "How would I know? We have been searching for 3 to 4 days. I don't know how long it will take." "Shoo, keep your voices down. Don't disturb the Lord and distract him." At this moment, everyone was following behind Yi Hao. They felt bored and discussed softly. "Haha, just as I expected, I found it," Yi Hao said with a smile. When everyone heard Yi Hao, they immediately walked to Yi Hao's side. They wanted to see what Yi Hao had found. "All of you, follow me," Yi Hao said to the crowd. Suddenly, he took a step forward and disappeared from where he stood. "Oh my God, where's the Lord?" Everyone exclaimed when they saw Yi Hao suddenly disappear. "It seems like the Lord is right. There's an array formation here. Let's hurry up and follow him." A demon supremacy said. "What?" Everyone was stunned. The Lord even knows about array formations. Does he have to be so crazy? At this moment, other than admiration for Yi Hao, all that was left was admiration. One had to know that they, including the demon supremacies, did not see the existence of an array formation here. Instead, they did not believe Yi Hao when he said there was an array formation here. Now, they had no choice but to believe him. They did not dare to delay and immediately chased after him. At the same time, they all disappeared on the spot. "Big brother, I think I saw a group of people disappear over there." Just as everyone disappeared, a large group of people suddenly appeared in the periphery of the desolate place. This group of people belonged to a hunting association. They usually hunted demonic beasts and sold them for money. Of course, these people who licked blood on the tip of their blades had done many things like killing and robbing. "Kid, did you go overboard with that woman just now? Are you hallucinating?" The leader of the association, He Yin, looked at the desolate place and scolded jokingly. "Haha." He Yin's words caused a roar of laughter. That underling said solemnly, "Boss, I am definitely not hallucinating. I really saw a group of people disappear over there." Seeing how serious his underling was, He Yin also believed him a little. He could not help but look in the direction his underling was pointing at. "Boss, I think I saw it too, but I thought I was hallucinating." Another underling stammered. Chapter 794. He Yin had been in the magical beast forest for a long time. Naturally, he knew that the forest was full of opportunities. Many strong people in the ancient demon realm would occasionally enter the secret realm or the ruins to obtain treasures and soar to the top. In He Yin's opinion, this was an opportunity for him to soar to the top. Although he didn't know what the ruins were, his heart was already boiling with excitement. "Quick, we can't let them get the good stuff." He Yin licked his dry lips and said anxiously to the rest, "Big brother, wait a minute." Seeing He Yin's anxious look, one of his underlings immediately stopped him. "What's wrong?" He Yin looked at his underling in confusion. "Big brother, we don't know what the ruins are. Although it is full of opportunities, it is also full of danger. If we go down rashly, I don't think it's appropriate." The underling quickly analyzed. He Yin felt that it made sense and asked his underling, "Then what do you think we should do?" "In my opinion, let the brothers guard here and set up a trap. When they come out, we will reap the benefits." The underling smiled sinisterly. Good. Your brain is not in vain. We will do as you say." He Yin smiled when he heard his underling's idea. "You go and call all the brothers in the guild over. Remember, this operation must be kept a secret." He Yin looked at the 40 to 50 underlings beside him and felt a little uneasy. He couldn't help but order one of them. "Don't worry, big brother. You can rest assured with my work." The underling patted his chest and promised. He then left quickly. Seeing that his underling had left, He Yin immediately ordered the rest of the people, "Everyone, be alert. Don't let it fly off. Whether or not we can achieve meteoric success in the future depends on whether or not we can complete this business deal." "Yes." The underlings' eyes were burning with passion as they shouted in unison. After Yi Hao entered the array, he looked at the scene in front of him. It was extremely dark and gloomy. "What is this place?" Yi Hao looked at the scene in front of him and couldn't help but frown. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and there was no sunlight at all. A rotten smell rushed into his nose. Lord, what is this place? Right at this moment, everyone appeared behind Xia Haoshuan. They all looked around with uncomfortable expressions on their faces. This was because the surrounding environment was extremely oppressive. If possible, the crowd would be more than happy to leave this place immediately. I don't know either. It should be a relic. Let's go forward and take a look. Yihao shook his head gently and took the lead to walk forward. Everyone took out their weapons and followed behind Yihao. Master, look, there seems to be someone there. Suddenly, a disciple exclaimed, Don't talk nonsense. This place has existed for who knows how long. How could there be anyone here? Another disciple said, If you don't believe me, see for yourself. The crowd looked in the direction that the disciple was pointing at, and they were all stunned. That was because there was a figure slowly walking forward. Is there really someone here? Many disciples exclaimed softly, My lord, what should we do? All the disciples looked at Yihao nervously. Because they had been together for a long time, they had completely treated Yihao as the center of attention. Be careful. Let's go and take a look. Yihao said to the crowd and immediately walked over. The closer he got to the figure, the more Yihao frowned. This was because the stench of rotting corpses wafted into his nose. That's not right. This isn't a human. Could it be a zombie? Yihao looked at the figure that was still walking forward and suddenly guessed. Swoosh! Just as Yihao was thinking, the figure in front suddenly turned around and attacked Yihao. Blurg! Be careful, my lord. When they saw the true face of the figure, many disciples vomited. A few of them exclaimed. This was because the figure in front of them wasn't a human. Or rather, it wasn't a living person. This person's face was rotten and his eyes were sunken. He looked extremely disgusting and was obviously a zombie. You're courting death. Seeing the figure that was attacking him, Yihao immediately slashed at it with his sword. Yihao's sword directly pierced through the zombie's chest. However, it was useless. It couldn't kill the zombie at all. The zombie stretched out his hand and continued to claw at Yihao's chest. Yihao had no choice but to let go of his sword. His body suddenly jumped back and dodged the zombie's fatal attack. It can't be killed. Everyone couldn't help but exclaim when they saw the sword in the zombie's chest. I don't believe that you can't die. Yihao also knew that the person in front of him was already a zombie. It couldn't be compared to a normal person at all. Since his attack on the zombie's chest didn't kill it, Yihao immediately attacked the zombie's head. Yihao suppressed the disgust in his heart. He frowned and took out his weapon to attack the zombie's head. One slash, Yihao directly used a martial technique and slashed at the zombie's head. Yihao's broadsword instantly split open the zombie's head. What was strange was that the zombie's head wasn't filled with brain matter. It was only a ball of dark green flame. Ghost Spirit Fire. Yihao remembered seeing it in a secret manual. As long as a corpse underwent some special changes and became a zombie, it would form a spirit fire. This spirit fire was called the Ghost Spirit Fire. This Ghost Spirit Fire was equivalent to the soul of a zombie. If one wanted to kill a zombie, they had to extinguish the Ghost Spirit Fire. Furthermore, there were strong and weak Ghost Spirit Fires. A zombie with a weak Ghost Spirit Fire didn't have any consciousness at all. It was like a walking corpse. However, the Ghost Spirit Fire could grow. When it grew to a powerful Ghost Spirit Fire, it would slowly gain its own consciousness. Only zombies with thoughts of their own were the strongest among zombies. Clearly, the zombie in front of him didn't have any consciousness at all. It was just an ordinary zombie. Yihao was just about to extinguish the Ghost Spirit Fire when his eyes suddenly changed. A black shadow shot out and shot directly at the Ghost Spirit Fire. Heavenly Een Spirit. Seeing this black shadow, Yihao couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. One had to know that in the 10,000 Kingdoms continent, the Heavenly Een Spirit fell into a deep sleep in the heart of the formation. This caused Yihao to almost forget about the existence of the Heavenly Een Spirit. Who knew that the Heavenly Een Spirit would appear again at this time? The Heavenly Een Spirit directly swallowed the Ghost Spirit Fire and then circled around Yihao. As for the zombie, after losing the Ghost Spirit Fire, It was like a puppet whose strings had been cut and fell to the ground. Bang, bang. Just as the zombie fell to the ground, a sound suddenly rang out. Yihao immediately walked to the zombie's side and kicked the corpse away. He saw a ring on the ground. Chapter 795. This interspatial ring seems a little familiar. Yihao picked up the interspatial ring on the ground. My lord, isn't this the interspatial ring of Sky, Blood, Demon Venerate, and the others? A demon venerate asked when he saw the interspatial ring in Yihao's hand. Upon hearing this, Yihao took a closer look. Indeed, the interspatial ring was exactly the same as the one on Sky, Blood, Demon Venerate, and the others. It seems like the three of them must have been here before. Yihao thought to himself. Yihao immediately sent his consciousness into the interspatial ring. He saw some herbs and some spirit coins inside. However, Yihao's gaze landed on a few porcelain bottles. These porcelain bottles were exactly the same as the ones on Sky, Blood, Demon Venerate, and the others. Yihao suppressed his excitement. There was a high chance that the Blood Martial Elixir was in these porcelain bottles. The Blood Martial Elixir was the reason he had taken this risk. Although the Blood Martial Elixir wasn't as perverse as the Leveling Elixir, it could raise one's cultivation base by 1 level. However, it was definitely the most helpful to the disciples. It was also the best way to raise the disciples' cultivation base. Yihao had also observed that the Blood Martial Elixir raised the disciples' cultivation base by a lot. It was no different from cultivating on their own. It wasn't like other elixirs. Although they could raise one's strength, the strength they could unleash was very weak. It simply couldn't achieve the effects of one's own cultivation. Elixirs like these should never be consumed. After all, consuming them would cause one's foundation to become unstable. It would be very detrimental to one's future cultivation. Although it could provide a temporary boost, there would be no end to it. Therefore, most people wouldn't consume such elixirs unless they had no other choice. However, the Blood Martial Elixir didn't have any of these drawbacks. This was also why Yihao didn't have to worry about giving the disciples the Blood Martial Elixir. Yihao opened the porcelain bottle. Indeed, there were 4 or 5 Blood Martial Elixirs inside. There were a total of 4 porcelain bottles in the interspatial ring. This meant that they had obtained a total of 20 Blood Martial Elixirs. Yihao wasn't in a hurry to give the Blood Martial Elixirs to the disciples. After all, the environment wasn't suitable for cultivation. Yihao put away the Blood Martial Elixirs and led the disciples forward. After walking for a while, Yihao found another figure. This time, Yihao did not delay and directly split open the zombie's head. The ghost spirit fire also immediately appeared. The heavenly Een spirit beside Yihao immediately flew over and swallowed the ghost spirit fire. Then, it flew back to Yihao's side. What is this thing? Why have I never seen it before? Everyone looked at the heavenly Een spirit that was like a shadow, but darker than a shadow. It was entrenched beside Yihao, and they were all very curious. Everyone realized that as long as they were by Yihao's side, they would see things that they had never seen before. Everyone couldn't help but be curious as to what use the heavenly Een spirit had. Yihao walked up to the zombie and bent down. Sure enough, he saw another ring in the zombie's hand. Yihao didn't stand on ceremony. He directly took it and sent his consciousness into the spatial ring. He saw that the items inside were similar to those of the zombies. After Yihao took out the Blood Martial Elixir, he placed the interspatial ring into the interspatial system. Everyone walked forward again. The environment they saw seemed to be in the wilderness. However, there were always some zombies appearing. Everyone couldn't help but be curious as to what kind of place this was. Along the way, they didn't see any groups of zombies. They were all scattered zombies. Every time they encountered one, their strength wasn't high. They were only at the beginner Devil Emperor level. Every time they encountered a zombie, Yihao and the heavenly Een spirit cooperated very well. After Yihao split open the zombie's head, the heavenly Een spirit would swallow the ghost spirit fire. In any case, the ghost spirit fire was useless to him. Therefore, Yihao naturally let the heavenly Een spirit swallow it. However, He had to know what kind of changes would occur after the heavenly Een spirit swallowed the ghost spirit fire. He couldn't help but be curious. However, without a doubt, Yihao could feel that every time the heavenly Een spirit swallowed a ghost spirit fire, its strength would increase by a bit. They had been here for about 6 to 8 hours. However, Yihao had only killed less than 10 zombies. This caused everyone to feel incomparably gloomy. It was all because this strange place was simply too big. However, no one dared to let down their guard because no one knew when danger would appear. "My lord, there seems to be a building in front." Suddenly, a devil venerable shouted. After Yihao picked up the interspatial ring on the ground, he immediately looked to the right where the devil venerable was pointing. It was pitch black in front of them. However, they could vaguely see some buildings. "Come, let's go and take a look." After seeing the buildings, Yihao said excitedly. At the very least, they didn't have to run around aimlessly. This place seems to be a sect. Yihao looked at the huge building in front of him. Although it was dilapidated, he could still vaguely see the glory of the past. What kind of sect is this? It's actually so big. Everyone looked around. The location of this sect wasn't smaller than Rain City. Moreover, it seemed to be a few times bigger than Rain City. One had to know that Rain City was the main city of Rain Domain. It could accommodate millions of people. However, the ruins of this sect were actually a few times bigger than Rain City. One could imagine what kind of existence this sect was when it was in its glory days. What made everyone sigh was that no matter how beautiful things were, they couldn't withstand the destruction of history. Just like the sect before them, it was obvious that it had been forgotten in the long river of history. Only this pile of ruins was left to prove that it had once existed. Once the ruins disappeared, all traces of the sect would be erased from history. Perhaps the future generations would never know that such a powerful sect had once existed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just as everyone was still sighing about the changes that the long river of history had brought to the sect before them, for figures suddenly flew out and attacked them. "Be careful!" Yihao shouted and immediately attacked with the people around him. Everyone knew where the vital points of these zombies were. Therefore, they attacked the heads of the zombies. The heads of the 4 zombies instantly exploded, revealing 4 balls of ghost spirit fire. When the heavenly Een spirit saw the 4 balls of ghost spirit fire, it immediately flew out excitedly and swallowed the 4 balls of ghost spirit fire. Yihao looked at the clothes of the 4 zombies. They should be the guards of the sect. Unfortunately, the symbols on these people's clothes were already rotten. It was impossible to tell what they were. Yihao walked to the 4 zombies and picked up the 4 interspatial rings. From this, it could be seen how powerful and glorious this sect was in the past. In the Rain Domain, only demon sovereigns and above were lucky enough to obtain interspatial rings. Below demon sovereigns, only demon sovereigns could obtain low-grade interspatial rings. Chapter 796. My lord, this sect is a little strange. Why do they all look like zombies? A demon supremacy said with a frown as he looked at the 4 zombie corpses on the ground. I also feel that something is strange. Let's take a look first. Yihao nodded in agreement. Fortunately, every time they killed a zombie, they would obtain a lot of blood marshal elixirs. Therefore, Yihao was very motivated. Everyone, I think there are more zombies up there. Be careful. Yihao guessed, and then reminded everyone. Yes, everyone had been waiting for the battle to begin. After passing through the sex gate and walking for a few dozen meters, they saw a martial arts field. There were hundreds of figures in the martial arts field. They were all zombies. The most shocking thing was that the ground of the martial arts field was covered with a thick layer of white bones. At a rough estimate, the bones were at least 1 meter high. There were also many rotting corpses on top of the white bones. My lord, what is going on? Everyone was completely stunned by the scene before them. If they didn't know that they had entered the sect's ruins, they would probably think that this was hell. There were just too many white bones, so much so that it was a little shocking. I think these zombies are also fighting with each other. Yihao looked at the white bones on the ground. Most of them had their heads smashed and the ghost spirit fire had disappeared. Of course, there was also the possibility that these people had their heads smashed before they died and didn't turn into zombies. However, Xiao Haoshuan felt that the former was more likely. "My lord, it's just as you said. These zombies are actually fighting with each other," Li Xiaotian exclaimed. Everyone looked in Li Xiaotian's direction and saw two zombies fighting fiercely. The two zombies seemed to know each other's Achilles heel. Every time they attacked, they would attack the other's head. In the end, one of the zombies was defeated. Then, the victorious zombie pounced on the defeated zombie and swallowed the ghost spirit fire. The zombie that had lost the ghost spirit fire collapsed on top of the white bones. As for the zombie that obtained the ghost spirit fire, what made people feel strange was that it actually had a look of enjoyment on its face. "My lord, I feel that this zombie's strength seems to have increased compared to before," Wang Kai exclaimed. "These zombies are at least fifth-order devil emperors." Yi Hao frowned as he looked at the hundreds of zombies in front of him. After all, there were hundreds of demon emperor-level zombies. Furthermore, they didn't feel any pain when they were attacked. The only fatal wound a zombie could inflict was on its head. Only by smashing the zombie's head and extinguishing its ghost spirit fire could the zombie be killed. With their strength, it was still relatively easy for them to crush the heads of the zombies with a single blow. But in the face of such a large group of zombies, it was easier said than done to shatter all their heads. Because if he was not careful, he would be surrounded and attacked by a large group of zombies. Yi Hao and the demon supremacies were still fine facing the siege of a large group of zombies, but the disciples would definitely be in danger. However, there were so many zombies and each of them had a space ring on their finger. This was definitely a huge temptation for Yi Hao. Not to mention, there were blood martial elixirs in every zombie space ring. This was simply a miraculous elixir for martial artists below the level of demon emperors. Just those space rings alone were a huge fortune. Moreover, there were many space rings on the pile of white bones that was almost 1 meter high on the ground. Obviously, these were free space rings and blood martial elixirs. But at the same time, it was also very inconvenient to obtain these blood martial elixirs, because the hundreds of zombies were scattered around the martial arts field. As long as one stepped into the martial arts field, they would definitely be attacked by the zombies. Should I do it or not? Yi Hao narrowed his eyes as he pondered. Obviously, there were opportunities and dangers in front of him. If he wanted to obtain wealth, he would have to bear the risks. "My lord, why don't we kill the zombies together with you and let the disciples watch from the side?" a demon supremacy said as he saw through Yi Hao's thoughts. "Okay." Yi Hao thought for a moment and nodded his head. The level of the zombies was too high. Most of the disciples were no match for the zombies. They would only be courting death if they were sent to fight the zombies. "My lord, I also want to fight. I want to train myself," Li Xiaotian suddenly said. Yi Hao looked at Li Xiaotian's cultivation. He had already broken through to the 8th Order Demon Emperor. Among the disciples, he was already considered outstanding. The average strength of the zombies was only at the 5th Order Demon Emperor. With Li Xiaotian's strength, he would not be in danger as long as he did not face too many zombies. Therefore, Yi Hao agreed without hesitation. Yi Hao looked at the disciples and said, "Inner disciples can fight, but you must pay attention to your own safety. Outer disciples, stand aside." "Yes." Hearing Yi Hao's words, the 10 inner disciples immediately agreed happily. As for the 10 outer sect disciples, although they also wanted to fight, they also knew their own capabilities, so they obediently retreated to the side. "Kill," Yi Hao said in a deep voice. Then, he stepped into the martial arts field. Fortunately, only 2 zombies rushed toward Yi Hao. The rest of the zombies did not seem to notice Yi Hao. They were still walking in the same place. Everyone split up. Seeing that Yi Hao had only attracted 2 zombies, the rest of the zombies didn't attack him. The demon sovereigns knew that these zombies did not have intelligence. Their attack range was limited. The zombies would only attack when they stepped into the attack range. "There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately." "There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately." "There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There's not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There's not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There's not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. I will correct it immediately. There is not enough time. There is not enough time. 200 words missing. I will correct it immediately. Chapter 797. Yihao killed the zombies while guarding the disciples. Only when the disciples were in danger would he lend a helping hand. The heavenly Yin spirit was extremely busy. As long as someone smashed the zombie's head, the heavenly Yin spirit would immediately fly over and devour the ghost spirit fire. The hundreds of zombies were easy to kill in the beginning. But later on, as their physical strength was depleted, the speed of killing slowed down. After killing all the hundreds of zombies, the group used close to 3 days before they finally cleared the martial arts field of all zombies. Clean up the battlefield. Yihao smiled and said to the group, "All right." The group was very happy and began to search for rings on the ground. In a short while, everyone found dozens of rings. All the rings added up to close to 1,000 rings. And there were still many spatial rings on the ground. Of course, the group would not let them go. It took them an entire day to clean up the entire martial arts field. The number of rings in the end was close to 10,000. Even though the group was prepared, they still sucked in a breath of cold air. From the number of spatial rings, it could be seen how powerful this sect was. But such a powerful sect had still fallen. The group could not help but guess what caused this sect to become like this and why so many people had turned into zombies. The group did not believe that this was a coincidence. Let's rest for a while before we set off. After 3 days of fighting, the group was already very tired. Yihao spoke up. According to the normal sect layout, the area further down should be the inner sect's territory. Yihao guessed that the zombies there should be even more powerful. And there was another point that he was worried about. That was, the zombies that they had encountered so far had not gained sentience. Perhaps they might encounter zombies that had already gained sentience. Such zombies would undoubtedly be troublesome to deal with. But with such a great opportunity here, how could Yihao give it up so easily? So even if it was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, he had to give it a try. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the mission to kill the final boss of the ruins. You have obtained a chance to summon the Demon Emperor. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the mission of uncovering the secret of the ruins. You will receive a special reward. Just as Yihao was resting, the system notification suddenly sounded. The quest has been activated. Yihao was a little surprised when he heard the quest notification. However, when Yihao saw the reward for the first mission, he knew that he had to complete it. This was because the trip to the Tianyuan Academy was fraught with danger. With the protection of a Demon Emperor in the dark, it would be much safer. Furthermore, the summoned Demon Emperor was permanent. Therefore, even if it was for the sake of this Demon Emperor, he had to kill the boss here. However, Yihao also knew that it would not be easy to kill this boss. After all, for the system to reward a summon opportunity to summon a Demon Emperor-level powerhouse, the strength of this boss would not be too weak. After everyone had recovered their strength, Yihao ordered the outer sect disciples to stay in the training grounds to cultivate. After all, these external disciples were of no help at all. At the same time, everyone had to split their attention to take care of them. Therefore, the right choice was to leave them in the training grounds. At the same time, Yihao took out a large number of blood martial pills and gave them to the outer sect disciples. He told them not to waste any time and to focus on cultivating and increasing their strength. After seeing the blood martial pills, the outer sect disciples were overjoyed after experiencing the effects of the blood martial pills. Yihao thought for a while and decided to leave a demon emperor behind to protect the outer sect disciples. This was because he could not be sure if someone would accidentally barge in. After instructing the outer sect disciples, Yihao led the rest of the people and continued on their journey. Let's start cultivating. We can't help it all now. We can only work hard to cultivate and defeat the disciples of the Tianyuan Academy. After seeing Yihao lead the group away, one of the outer sect disciples spoke up. Then, everyone cleared out an area and started to consume the blood martial pills to cultivate. Strange. Why is there no movement after so long? Hey, Yin had been waiting on the wasteland for a few days. He was very anxious. At this moment, there were about 500 to 600 people on the wasteland. They were all focused and scattered around the wasteland. These people were all He Yan subordinates. They had put down everything they were doing and were sent here by He Yan. One could see how important this matter was to He Yan. Big brother, should we send some of our brothers in to take a look? Suddenly, one of He Yan's subordinates suggested. No need. Just wait here. I don't believe that they won't come out. He Yan waved his hand and said, by the way, did the other guilds know about this matter? He Yan suddenly thought of something and asked, Big brother, don't worry. I sent someone to spread the news that we have received a big mission to kill a demon emperor. The other guilds will not suspect anything. The subordinate quickly said, That's good. He Yan heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the subordinate's words. At the same time, he looked at his subordinate with praise and said, You have done well. When we find the treasures, I will give you more. Thank you, big brother. I will be loyal to you and fight for you for the rest of my life. He Yan's subordinate said happily. Tianyuan Academy in a secret realm. In a huge medicinal pool, more than 10 disciples were sitting cross-legged and absorbing the medicinal power in the pool. Beside the pool, there were a few disciples who were sparring with rank 5 disciples. Dean, if this continues, the achievements of these disciples will be extraordinary. At this moment, not far away, an elder said to the dean, Ever since Yihao announced the challenge, these disciples had not come out of the medicinal bath. One had to know that this medicinal bath was made from countless spiritual treasures of heaven and earth, as well as various powerful spiritual herbs. The cost of every medicinal bath was very expensive. Tianyuan Academy only opened the medicinal bath for 3 days every year for the top 10 disciples of the inner and outer courtyard to cultivate. However, it had never been like this where the medicinal bath was opened all the time. The disciples could experience the baptism of the medicinal bath for 3 months. Even the elders were envious of these disciples. One should know that even they had never been so extravagant before. Chapter 798. Dean, is it worth it to spend so many resources just to defeat the first academy? Suddenly, an elder asked. One had to know that the amount of resources consumed in these 3 months of medicinal baths was simply an astronomical figure. Even for the Tianyuan Academy, it would not be easy to bear the cost of such resources. This had consumed 20 to 30% of the total resources of the Tianyuan Academy. If these resources were taken out, they could nurture more disciples and give them more opportunities to grow. After all, it was possible that a disciple's future path would undergo an earth-shattering change after 3 days of baptism in medicinal baths. As for these 20 disciples, after so many days of medicinal baths, many of them actually managed to achieve a breakthrough. The rest of them had their cultivation level increased greatly and could break through at any time. In other words, in 3 months' time, the average strength of these 20 disciples would be greatly improved. The first academy is nothing. The dean sneered disdainfully. What I want is to raise the prestige of the Tianyuan Academy and raise the grade of the Tianyuan Academy. Dean, could it be that you are doing this for the academy ranking competition in a year's time? Hearing the dean's words, the elders were enlightened. Master, I feel that the gloomy aura is getting denser. As the group walked, they could feel the chill in the air even though they were demon sovereigns. This chill was not a normal chill, but a chill that was filled with gloomy aura. It seems that someone has purposely turned this place into a place of extreme, gloomy aura. Yihao looked at the surrounding environment. It was obvious that this was man-made to nurture these zombies. Similarly, the denser the gloomy aura, the stronger the zombies that were nurtured. If Yihao's guess was right, there must be a strong zombie waiting for him ahead. Ha ha ha! Someone actually dares to barge into the array elixir sect. At this moment, a strange laughter was heard. Just as everyone was looking around cautiously, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared before them. He can actually speak. Is he a human or a zombie? Seeing the middle-aged man who had appeared out of nowhere, the disciples discussed nervously. Yihao looked at the man. Although his body had not rotted, he could see that his face was extremely shriveled. Moreover, the middle-aged man did not have the slightest bit of vitality. Instead, he carried a dense aura of death. Moreover, this middle-aged man claimed to be from the Formation Pill Divine sect. Yihao couldn't help but take a deep breath. This was because he had read the historical records of the Array Pill sect. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Array Pill sect could be said to be the largest heaven-level sect in the ancient demon domain. The Array Pill Divine sect used arrays and pills to spread their culture to the world and attracted all the genius disciples in the world. Even the children of the royal families were sent to the Array Elixir sect. At that time, the Formation Pill Sacred sect would be completely above all the countries. All the countries would have to submit to the Formation Pill Sacred sect. And at that time, the Alchemy Dao and Array Formation Dao completely reigned above the present martial artists. However, one day, the Formation Pill Divine sect chased all the disciples out of the sect, leaving only a small number of disciples behind. As for the disciples that were kicked out of the sect, they did not complain in the slightest. Furthermore, they did not reveal why the Formation Pill Sacred sect did that. The various powers sent people to investigate why the Formation Pill Sacred sect would do such a thing when they were at their peak. However, everyone discovered that the Formation Pill Sacred sect had actually disappeared and never appeared in the ancient demon domain again. Since then, whether the Formation Pill Sacred sect was dead or alive and why they suddenly disappeared, it became a mystery. Yihao did not expect that the Formation Pill Sacred sect would appear here. Furthermore, looking at the broken buildings of the Formation Pill Sacred sect, it was obvious that they had suffered a powerful attack. Yihao guessed that the Formation Pill Sacred sect must have suffered a great calamity at that time. The middle-aged man in front of him actually said that he was a member of the Formation Pill Sacred sect and that he could speak. It was obvious that he was a zombie that had already gained intelligence. After martial artists died, some of them would turn into zombies. However, most zombies did not have intelligence and were like walking corpses. There were also a small number of powerful zombies that had intelligence and some of their memories when they were alive. Of course, there were also zombies that relied on devouring the ghost spirit fire to increase their cultivation. After reaching a certain level, they would also gain intelligence. However, no matter what, zombies that had gained intelligence were generally stronger and more difficult to deal with. For example, the zombie in front of him was obviously at the level of a demon venerable. Disciples, listen up. Follow me and kill the foreign enemies. Suddenly, the middle-aged man spoke again. Everyone was stunned. Suddenly, from afar, a group of figures rushed over. It was obvious that they were zombies. These zombies were all in a daze and stood behind the middle-aged man. He can control zombies. Seeing that the middle-aged man had summoned dozens of zombies, Yihao suddenly felt that it was a little tricky. No, we can't let him live. Yihao looked at the middle-aged man with killing intent. He immediately ordered the demon venerables, kill him first. When the demon venerables saw that so many zombies had suddenly appeared, they knew that the situation was critical. Without hesitation, they all attacked the middle-aged man. Kill these lowly humans. The middle-aged man ordered the zombies. As soon as the middle-aged man's voice fell, the zombies beside him actually attacked the demon venerables. It was as if the middle-aged man knew that the demon venerables were a threat to him. Therefore, the zombies all attacked the demon venerables. However, the demon venerables had received Yi Hao's order. Naturally, they would not waste their energy on these zombies that did not have intelligence. The few of them immediately worked together to repel the zombies in front of them. Then, they attacked the middle-aged man. "It's not that easy to kill me," the middle-aged man said in a terrifying voice. At the same time, the middle-aged man shot towards a demon venerable like a cannonball. "Be careful," Yi Hao immediately warned. This was because he knew that a zombie that had intelligence was no different from a normal person. In fact, it was even stronger than a normal person. The demon venerables did not dare to be careless. They all cooperated and surrounded the middle-aged man. "All of you follow me and kill these zombies." Yi Hao looked at the zombies that did not have intelligence and attacked the demon venerables at this moment. In order to prevent these zombies from interfering with the demon venerable's killing of the middle-aged man, Yi Hao immediately attacked a zombie after he finished speaking. "Kill!" Seeing that Yi Hao had already attacked, the disciples did not stay idle. They all challenged the zombies to fight. "Ha ha! I'll let you have a taste of the power of my corpse poison." Although the middle-aged man's defense was strong, it could not withstand the joint attack of so many demon venerables. Chapter 799. "Quick, kill him," Xia Haoshuan said anxiously when he heard the middle-aged zombie. One had to know that corpse poison was an important means of attack for zombies. As long as a cultivator came into contact with it, they would not be able to use their martial power and might even die. Corpse poison was not something that ordinary zombies could possess. Only zombies with intelligence would be able to produce corpse poison and release it as their own means of attack. The demon supremacies had obviously heard of how powerful corpse poison was. Hence, they all had serious expressions and attacked the middle-aged zombie. "Ha ha, come on, all of you die." The middle-aged zombie released the corpse poison and a strange gas spread towards the demon supremacies. "Be careful, retreat," Yi Hao shouted when he saw this scene and pushed back the zombie in front of him. However, it was too late. The demon supremacies did not expect the middle-aged zombie to release the corpse poison so quickly. At this moment, the demon supremacies were in despair. Even the faces of the disciples were filled with anxiety at this moment. At this moment, the heavenly Yin spirit that was surrounding Yi Hao suddenly moved. In the blink of an eye, it flew towards the corpse poison. The heavenly Yin spirit released a black fog that was close to 10 meters long, and it enveloped all of the corpse poison gas. How is this possible? At this moment, the smile on the zombie's face disappeared and was replaced by a look of panic. That was because he felt that the corpse poison that he released had lost contact with him. The demon supremacies were stunned when they saw this scene. Then, they were overjoyed. They did not expect that they would be able to escape death at such a dangerous moment. The thing that saved them was something that they could not figure out. It was a black shadow. However, at this moment, they knew that the heavenly Yin spirit was extraordinary. After all, the corpse poison was something that they could not deal with. However, it was easily neutralized by the heavenly Yin spirit. "He's trying to escape. Kill him quickly," Yi Hao ordered the demon supremacies when he saw that the middle-aged zombie was trying to escape. "Where do you think you're going?" The demon supremacies shouted and attacked the middle-aged zombie when they heard Yi Hao. At this time, the middle-aged zombie was obviously at his wit's end. Not long after, his head was smashed into pieces. At that moment, the heavenly Yin spirit immediately flew toward the middle-aged zombie's head and directly swallowed the middle-aged zombie's ghost spirit fire. Yi Hao heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the middle-aged zombie dead. They couldn't help but feel extremely fortunate. If it wasn't for the heavenly Yin spirit, they would have probably died here today. The middle-aged zombie actually possessed corpse poison. This was something he had overlooked and never expected. What he didn't expect even more was that the heavenly Yin spirit could actually restrain this kind of corpse poison. As for the other demon lords, They could feel cold sweat dripping down their backs as they looked at the dead middle-aged zombie. They had never felt that they were so close to death. They were actually so weak. In front of the corpse poison, they had no power to resist at all. After the middle-aged zombie was killed, the number of ordinary zombies did not increase, making it much easier for everyone to kill them. Yihao walked up to the middle-aged zombie and took its interspatial ring. The first thing Yihao saw in the middle-aged zombie's ring was a token. The token was dark gold in color and had a very simple aura. "This is dark sand gold." Yihao couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the material of the token. He had never seen dark sand gold before. He had only seen it in secret manuals. He only knew that the dark sand gold was extremely rare in the ancient demon's realm. It was an excellent material for forging divine weapons. In the current ancient demon realm, dark sand gold was rarely seen. It could be said that dark sand gold was something that couldn't be bought with money. What Yihao didn't expect was that the Array Pill sect would actually use dark sand gold as an identity token. It could be seen how extravagant the Array Pill sect was. Although the token in his hand was only a small piece, if he took it out, it would definitely cause a bloodbath. If it was added to an existing weapon, it would definitely increase the grade of the weapon. To Yihao, this was absolutely a treasure that was hard to come by. After all, he didn't have a suitable weapon at the moment. What Yihao regretted was that there weren't any weapons in the middle-aged zombie's interspatial ring. Other than the token, there were only a few elixir jade bottles. Yihao put away the token and opened the jade bottle containing the elixir jade bottles. Immediately, a rich medicinal fragrance filled the air. Yihao's eyes lit up when he took out the elixir jade bottles. This was because the elixir jade bottles contained blood martial elixirs. If these were ordinary blood martial elixirs, Yihao wouldn't have reacted this way. This blood martial elixir was much more potent than the blood martial elixirs that he had obtained previously. If Yihao wasn't wrong, these blood martial elixirs were definitely at the level of a demon venerate. These blood martial elixirs were meant for demon venerates to consume. Yihao had previously been worried about the strength of the demon venerates. Now, he didn't need to worry at all. With these demon venerates' blood martial elixirs, the strength of the demon venerates would definitely increase tremendously. "My lord, the zombies have all been killed. Here are the interspatial rings." A demon venerate handed over a large pile of interspatial rings to Yihao. Yihao accepted the interspatial rings and distributed the demon venerates' blood martial elixirs to the demon venerates. The road ahead will be even more dangerous. Refine these elixirs and try to increase your strength as much as possible. These are demon venerates elixirs? The demon venerates were shocked when they saw the elixirs that Yihao handed over. Then, their faces lit up with joy. Although they were demon venerates, given their status in the Rain Domain, this was already their limit. This was because disregarding talent, wanting to obtain the cultivation resources of a demon lord was easier said than done. Given the strength of their families, they simply couldn't afford to consume them. Therefore, even if they had so many resources, they would still use them to nurture the new generation of disciples. After all, if a family didn't have enough disciples, it would be very scary. As a result, the powerhouses of every family in the Rain Domain would be stuck at the level of a demon venerate. However, this didn't mean that they didn't desire to become stronger. They were just trapped by reality and had no other choice. When they saw that Yihao was going to give them demon venerates elixirs to cultivate, they were naturally overjoyed. After all, having demon venerates elixirs meant that their strength would increase by leaps and bounds and reach a higher level. "Thank you, my lord." All of the demon sovereigns received the elixirs with great joy. Immediately, they started consuming the elixirs and cultivating them. Chapter 800. On the other hand, Yihao was looking ahead. They had just passed the training field, and they had already encountered a demon supremacy zombie. He was very worried that there would be a demon emperor zombie. If there were really a demon emperor zombie, he would have to give up on the mission. Therefore, he could only pray that there were no demon emperor zombies in the Array Dan sacred sect. However, Yihao could tell that these zombies had not grown for long. After a martial artist died and turned into a zombie, their strength would fall to the bottom. Only through the accumulation of cultivation and the absorption of yin qi over a long period of time could one slowly recover their strength. The young demon supremacy that they had killed earlier was only at the demon supremacy level. However, that middle-aged zombie was an elder of the Arrayed Dan sacred sect when he was alive. At that time, the Arrayed Dan sacred sect was the strongest force in the entire Myriad Kingdom continent. How could an elder of such a force only be at the demon supremacy level? Therefore, there was only one possibility. He had not been revived for long, so his strength had not fully recovered. Therefore, this gave Yihao a glimmer of hope. However, there was one point that Yihao could not figure out. Why were there only blood martial elixirs in the rings of these zombies? If someone had deliberately left these blood martial elixirs in the past, what was the purpose of leaving these blood martial elixirs? One had to know that these blood martial elixirs were completely useless to the zombies. If the zombies wanted to grow, they could only kill, absorb the ghost spirit fire, and absorb the yin qi. There was no other way. Moreover, Yihao felt that it was strange that he did not gain any experience from killing the zombies. This made him a little confused. Yihao looked at everyone who was immersed in cultivation. He did not have the heart to disturb them, so he sat down cross-legged to recover his strength. After recovering his strength, Yihao took out a spirit coin. Yihao held the spirit coin in his hand and started to control his strength, wanting to absorb the spiritual energy in it. When Yihao had entered the ancient demon domain, he had heard from the King Kong that the level of spiritual energy was above the level of martial arts. A person with spiritual power could easily defeat a warrior with martial arts power. It was only later that Yihao realized that it was not easy to obtain spiritual power. After a martial artist became a demon venerable, there would be a watershed. When breaking through to the peak of demon venerable, one must comprehend spiritual power. If he didn't comprehend spiritual power, after breaking through to the demon overlord, the Dantian in his body wouldn't be able to transform into a spiritual mansion. After that, he would no longer be able to comprehend spiritual energy. He would forever be weaker than others and be suppressed by others' spiritual energy. And if one was at the peak of the demon venerable, after comprehending spiritual power, the martial path Dantian in one's body would transform into a spiritual palace. At that time, if he broke through to the demon emperor realm, he would become a true demon emperor. A demon emperor without spiritual energy was destined to be a fake demon emperor and would be eliminated sooner or later. Therefore, many people spent their entire lives, but their strength remained at the peak of demon venerable. It wasn't that they didn't want to break through to the devil emperor realm, but that they couldn't comprehend spiritual energy. They were unwilling to break through to the devil emperor realm, because as long as one stepped into the demon emperor realm and did not have a spiritual abode, they would never have the chance to comprehend spiritual energy again. Therefore, the success and failure of many people were due to their spiritual power. And at this moment, Yihao was curious whether he could comprehend spiritual energy or not. Yihao held the spirit coins and wanted to try to restrain the spiritual energy into his Dantian. If others knew what Yihao was thinking, they would definitely be scared half to death. Because although spiritual energy was powerful, it was also incomparably overbearing. If one wanted to forcefully absorb it into their body, there was only one outcome, and that was to explode and die. Even a peak demon venerable expert wouldn't dare to do so, because there was a fake demon emperor in the past, because he was too eager to obtain spiritual energy. And he himself had already broken through to the demon emperor realm, so he was no longer able to comprehend spiritual energy. He cut off all means of retreat and tried to absorb spiritual energy into his Dantian to refine it. But the result was that the fake demon emperor's Dantian was shattered, his meridians were destroyed, and he became a cripple from then on. If this person wasn't a fake demon emperor, because of his strong physical body, he wouldn't even be able to keep his life. Therefore, if one wanted to comprehend spiritual energy, They had to slowly comprehend it when they were at the demon venerable level. To comprehend spiritual energy, one had to rely on luck and talent. Both of these were indispensable. Moreover, only after comprehending spiritual energy would one have an understanding of spiritual energy and have an affinity with spiritual energy. Spiritual energy would no longer resist being absorbed, and the physical body would not be in danger. At this moment, Yihao was directly absorbing spiritual energy into his body. It could be said that he was incomparably crazy, because this was completely bearing the risk of his body exploding. This spiritual energy is really powerful. Yihao just wanted to guide spiritual energy out of the spirit coins, but he found it extremely difficult. At this moment, Yihao already felt that his physical strength had been consumed a lot, and his body even began to sweat. But Yihao didn't give up and continued to guide the spiritual energy in the spirit coins. Because he had already felt the strength of the spiritual energy, his heart was filled with a desire for spiritual energy. But until he exhausted more than half of his physical strength, he found that he still couldn't guide the spiritual energy out. Yihao looked at the spirit coins in his hand and felt a little regretful. But he had to give up because he knew that even if he continued, it would be a waste of time. It seems that I can only break through to the Demon Emperor level and try again, Yihao thought to himself. However, although he didn't guide the spiritual energy out, he had a terrible guess. This time, Yihao poured his strength into the spirit coins again. But this time, he didn't guide the spiritual energy in the spirit coins. Instead, he used his strength to stir up the spiritual energy in the spirit coins. Then, Yihao immediately threw the spirit coins in his hand out. Patter! The spirit coins fell to the ground with a crisp sound, but the scene that Yihao wanted to see did not appear. What went wrong? Where's my guess wrong? Yihao walked to the spirit coins again, picked them up, and closed his eyes to meditate. After thinking, Yihao tried again and threw the spirit coins out again. Over and over again, he threw the spirit coins more than 10 times. Every time Yihao picked up the spirit coins, he would sit on the ground and meditate. Then he poured his strength into the spirit coins again and again, and he didn't get tired of it. Many people took a break in the middle of cultivation, so they were puzzled when they saw Yihao throwing the spirit coins around. But they didn't think much about it and immediately began to take elixirs to cultivate. After a day, they didn't know how many times Yihao had thrown the spirit coins. They were already numb to it. Logically speaking, it should work. What's wrong? Yihao stared at the spirit coins in his hand, and suddenly his eyes lit up. I know. Chapter 801. After Yihao finished controlling it, he nervously threw out the spirit coin in his hand. Boom! When the spirit coin landed on the ground, a huge crater appeared on the limestone floor. The blue stone was completely blown to pieces, turning into dust that filled the air. As for the people who were cultivating, they were given a big fright. Cough, cough, what's going on? Oh my God, what's going on? Why is there such a huge crater? The aura just now was so strong. Who did it? It seems to be the Lord. How is that possible? As a demon supremacy, I don't think I can make such a big attack. The crowd looked at the huge crater in front of them in shock and heard the huge explosion. They started discussing it. Lord, did you do this? A demon supremacy calmed himself down and asked Yihao. The rest of the people also looked at Yihao, waiting for Yihao's answer. Yes. Yihao nodded. He was overjoyed. He didn't expect his guess to come true. His day's hard work wasn't in vain. Yihao had obviously used the spirit coin as a bomb. By changing the spiritual energy in the spirit coin, he had caused it to explode. Yihao felt that the power of the spirit coin far exceeded that of a demon supremacy. If this spirit coin blew up a demon supremacy, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. At this moment, Yihao couldn't help but be eager to find some zombies to test the power of his spirit coin. Everyone, let's go. Yihao waved his hand and said. The crowd had already recovered their strength. When they heard Yihao's words, they immediately followed him. However, they couldn't help but look at the huge crater behind them. They were all frightened. This was because they felt that if the power that created the huge crater exploded on them, they would definitely be smashed to pieces. As the crowd walked forward, they killed many ordinary zombies along the way. However, they didn't meet any zombies with intelligence. "My lord, I sense a dangerous aura coming from the front." Suddenly, everyone stopped in their tracks and looked warily at the courtyard in front of them. "Elder Council." Outside the courtyard, there were 3 blurry words. "Seems like this should be the outer sect elders' courtyard of the Array Pill sect," Yihao said as he looked at the courtyard before him. At this moment, the crowd all had serious expressions on their faces. That was because there were over a dozen powerful auras being emitted from the courtyard. And such a powerful aura could only be emitted by a demon lord at the very least. "My lord, what should we do now?" Everyone looked at Yihao and asked. "Step back," Yihao ordered. "What? Retreat?" Everyone was clearly stunned when they heard Yihao's words. "My lord, do you want to be alone?" Everyone watched as Yihao walked towards the elders' compound alone. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva nervously. All of them wanted to stop Yihao. After all, he was simply courting death by barging into the elders' compound alone. After all, a demon lord zombie was already enough for everyone to deal with. Now, there were at least a dozen demon lord zombies in the elders' compound. Even if everyone attacked together, they might not be able to deal with them. Their lives might even be in danger. If Yihao went alone, the consequences would be even worse. "Step back quickly. Otherwise, I won't be able to save you later," Yihao shouted at the crowd sternly. Yes, when everyone saw Yihao's serious expression, they didn't dare to say anything and immediately stepped back. When Yihao saw that everyone had stepped back, he took out a handful of spirit coins. There were at least a dozen of them. The combined power of these spirit coins should be enough. Yihao looked at the courtyard in front of him and sneered. Then, Yihao immediately poured his energy into the spirit coins and started operating according to his own method. What is the Lord doing? Who knows? I think I saw the Lord holding a pile of spirit coins in his hand. What? The Lord is holding the spirit coins? Is he trying to bribe the zombies? What nonsense are you talking about? Spirit coins are useless to the zombies. Then what is the Lord doing? When everyone saw Yihao holding the spirit coins and standing at the entrance of the elders' compound, they discussed in confusion. "Go!" Yihao took out all the spirit coins and threw them into the courtyard in an instant. As for Yihao himself, he quickly stepped back. Just as everyone was puzzled, a loud sound suddenly rang out. It was dozens of times louder than the previous sound. Everyone only felt the ground trembling violently, almost making it difficult for them to stand. Dust and smoke rose from the elders' compound, and the heavenly Een spirit suddenly shot into the elders' compound. After a while, everyone suddenly felt that the powerful aura in the elders' compound had decreased by more than half. At this moment, the dust and smoke had already dispersed, and everyone looked at the elders' compound curiously. They saw that the elders' compound had been completely razed to the ground. On the ground, there were even some fragments of the zombies. However, there were still 5 zombies whose bodies were in pieces, but whose heads were still intact. Who is it? Who did it? At this moment, a zombie let out an angry roar. They are really lucky. Yihao was a little surprised. He did not expect that there were still zombies that were not killed by the explosion. If everyone knew what Yihao was thinking at this moment, they would probably want to die. One had to know that there were more than 10 zombies at the level of a demon master. Normally, the strength of these zombies was stronger than the strength of warriors at the same level. However, Yihao had easily dealt with nearly 10 zombies and still did not know his mistake. You did it. You'll be buried with us, you ant. The remaining zombies' gazes were all on Yihao at this moment. Suddenly, a few zombies directly joined forces and attacked Yihao. Lord, be careful. Seeing the 5 zombies attacking Yihao, the crowd immediately panicked and they all wanted to save him. Don't come up. Yihao was afraid that everyone would rush up and it would be more troublesome, so he shouted directly. On the other hand, Yihao took out 5 spirit coins and manipulated them while retreating at a high speed. You can't escape. You are destined to atone for your ignorance. The zombies saw Yihao escaping, and all of them let out horrifying voices. Is that so? You can talk about it if you can survive. Yihao sneered, and then threw the spirit coins in his hand at the zombies. What is that? The zombies were all intelligent. At this moment, they looked at the spirit coins that Yihao threw at them vigilantly. Chapter 802. Although the zombies were puzzled, they obviously lowered their vigilance after seeing that it was spirit coins. Seeing that the zombies had relaxed their vigilance, Yihao couldn't help but rejoice in his heart. Because if the zombies dodged in advance, he really didn't have the confidence to blow them up with spirit coins. But at this moment, these zombies didn't dodge at all. That meant that the remaining zombies would definitely die. Boom! Despite Yihao's nervous mood, the spirit coins still landed on the zombies. And the zombies, from the beginning to the end, had no intention of dodging. Obviously, they didn't take the spirit coins seriously. When they knew that the spirit coins had exploded, they revealed looks of disbelief. They couldn't figure out why the spirit coins would explode. But obviously, they had no chance to think. The zombies were blown to pieces by the spirit coins, leaving behind balls of ghost spirit fire in an instant. And these ghost spirit fire seemed to be pulled by a force and flew towards the depths of the formation Pill Divine sect. But how could the heavenly Een spirit be affected by these ghost spirit fire? In the blink of an eye, it swallowed a few ghost spirit fire. It's over just like that. When everyone saw the dead zombies, they suddenly felt that it was very unrealistic. One had to know that just now, they were still anxious because a few zombies were chasing Yihao. They were even sweating for Yihao. But in the next second, the ones who died were actually the zombies. On the other hand, Yihao was completely fine. How did the Lord do it? Everyone looked at Yihao in surprise. They really couldn't understand, because these spirit coins were only used by them for daily transactions. It couldn't be more common. Usually, except for transactions, they didn't use them at all. At most, only the experts at the Demon Emperor level would use spirit coins to cultivate. But they had never heard that spirit coins could be used to injure the enemy. But Yihao did it. And Yihao didn't just injure the enemy. He killed more than a dozen Demon Emperor level zombies. Only at this moment did everyone realize why Yihao had repeatedly tossed a spirit coin into the ring yesterday. The Lord is definitely a peerless genius. His brain is simply too abnormal. Everyone looked at Yihao and couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts. However, everyone's face was filled with joy. With Yihao's special method, they would be much safer in the Divine Pill sect. Yihao was relieved to see that the zombies were all dead. Yihao immediately started searching for spatial rings in front of the dead zombies. If Yihao's guess was right, these Demon Venerate zombies would definitely have Demon Venerate blood martial elixirs. Fortunately, the explosion of the spirit coins did not damage the interspatial ring. Yihao searched for a long time and found 13 spatial rings. What made Yihao both surprised and happy was that there were actually identity tokens in all 13 spatial rings. These identity tokens were all made of dusk sand gold. In Yihao's opinion, these tokens made of dusk sand gold were probably even more precious than the Demon Venerate blood martial elixirs. If there were enough materials, Yihao would like to use the dusk sand gold to forge a handy weapon for himself. Yihao stored the dusk sand gold in the spatial system and started counting the Demon Venerate blood martial elixirs. The total number of blood martial elixirs in the 13 spatial rings was close to 200. Yihao believed that if the Demon Venerates refined all these blood martial elixirs, their strength would definitely soar. They might even break through several levels consecutively. Come on, let's go into the courtyard and take a look. Although the Elder's compound had been razed to the ground, there were still some rooms left that hadn't been affected. As for Yihao, he wanted to see if there were any good things in those rooms. However, Yihao was disappointed. He led everyone and practically turned the Elder's compound upside down, but they didn't find anything. All the rooms were empty. It seemed as if, apart from the spatial rings on the hands of the Demon Venerate zombies, there was nothing else of value in the entire Elder's compound. Yihao had originally thought that, since this was the Elder's compound, he might be able to obtain some weapons or secret martial techniques. This had to have been the greatest power in the ancient demon realm tens of thousands of years ago. Whatever they possessed would definitely not be too shabby. However, what disappointed him was that there was nothing at all. Yihao realized that the zombies in the entire Array Elixir Sacred Sect only had spatial rings and blood martial elixirs. There was nothing else. As for the Elder zombies, they only had a token made of dusk sand gold in their hands. Now that he thought about it, it was very strange. The Array Elixir Sacred Sect was famous for its elixirs and array formations. It was fine if they didn't have any martial techniques or cultivation techniques, but why didn't they have any elixirs or array formations? Furthermore, even if they did have elixirs, why did they only have blood martial elixirs? There weren't any other types of elixirs. Furthermore, even if the Array Elixir Sacred Sect didn't have any divine weapons, they should at least have ordinary weapons. However, up until now, they hadn't seen any weapons at all. All these strange occurrences made Yihao extremely puzzled. Let's go. Let's continue towards the depths. Yihao couldn't figure it out. Since there wasn't anything valuable in the Elder's compound, he could only lead the group towards the depths of the Array Elixir Sacred Sect. Along the way, they encountered many ordinary zombies, which were dealt with by the disciples. Under the training of the zombies, the disciples' attacks were extremely fast, accurate, and ruthless. All of them would strive to crush the zombies' heads in the shortest amount of time possible. Then, the Heavenly Een Spirit would take action and swallow the ghost spirit fire. The Heavenly Een Spirit was like a bottomless pit that kept swallowing the ghost spirit fire. However, there weren't any obvious changes to the Heavenly Een Spirit. Along the way, they encountered 3 to 4 demon supremacy level zombies. In order not to waste time, Yihao paid 1 spirit coin to each of them. At this moment, the group arrived at the bottom of a stairway. When they looked up, they realized that there were countless steps in front of them. It was as if the entire stairway connected the heavens and the earth together. Zombies were standing on top of the stairs. If the group wanted to ascend to the top of the stairway, they would have to kill these zombies and break out of the encirclement. When the group saw the densely packed zombies, they instantly felt their scalps go numb. When Yihao saw the scene before him, he guessed that this was the main location of the Array Elixir Sacred Sect. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.